Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
We were sleeping. I've been sleeping. I've been turning away from a truth I wanted not to face. There is a wound that won't heal at the center of the galaxy. There is a darkness reaching like rust into everything around us. We let it grow, and now it's here.
How many men have you killed, Merlin?
I don't know.
50? 100? Countless.
Countless has a nice ring to it.
And how many lives have you saved?
500,000. Population of King's Landing. Tell me if your precious Randy commanded you to kill your own father and stand by while thousands of men, women, children burned alive, would you have done it? Would you have kept your oath then?
Our time has come. We prepared. We grew stronger. While you rested in your cradle of power, you were trusted to lead the Republic. But you were deceived. You assumed no force could challenge you. And now, finally, we have returned.
The visions are clear now. I see possible futures all at once. Our enemies are all around us. And in so many futures they prevail. But I do see a way. There is a narrow way through.
It's not a prophecy. It's a story that you keep telling, but it's not their story, it's yours. They deserve to be led by one of their own. What your people did to this world is heartbreaking.
We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope!
We have survived by hiding from them, by running from them. But they are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors, they are holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them.
I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such time, but that is not for them to decide. All we will have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us.
Forgive me. I did not see. I have failed you all.
You will bring me. Captain Armor. I do not know what strength is like that. But I swear to you, I will not let the White City fall. Our people failed. Our people. Our people.
I wish you good fortune in the wars to come. And now it begins.
No. Now it ends.
What's up, guys? Welcome to The Narrative, episode 45, Boomerang. I completely shocked myself that I have not used that word in the title of a narrative episode, but I specifically looked at the other 44, and I did not use that term. So now you got it. This is the Boomerang episode. We'll see how it goes. A little panicky because the back end of StreamYard wasn't working correctly before the show. My guest was in there when I arrived, probably rummaging around, fucking it all up. But I got it fixed, so it's fine. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna have a good show tonight. We're gonna talk about boomerangs, of course. That's the main theme and thesis of the show. We've been talking about the year of the boomerang since the Q drops. We've been talking about it pretty much every year that Badlands has existed, and before that. And we're going to talk about tonight, is 2025 the year of the boomerang? does it really matter which year is the year of the boomerang? What is the year of the boomerang? What do we even mean when we use that term in this audience? And are we so fixated on the boomerang, like the ultimate boomerang, that we somehow we don't allow ourselves to enjoy all the little boomerangs that are wheeling around all the time? Every day there's boomerangs just whizzing right by your head. And you're just waiting for the one that's going to change everything. That one boomerang that's going to walk into the coffee shop at a meet cute in Act 1 of a rom-com. That's the one you're waiting for. But the boomerang you could have married and had kids with was walking right by out on the street, and you just let it go. And it's already gotten weird. Usually I don't get really weird until the 3-hour mark, but that'll probably set us up well for what's going to happen tonight. I want to thank a couple of sponsors before I bring my guest on. Main show sponsor tonight is our friends at Save Pulse. Once again, back-to-back weeks. Ash says, what is happening right now? Ash, if I knew what words were going to come out of my mouth at any given time, I guess I wouldn't be me, but neither would you. So, Save Pulse is our main sponsor tonight. We'll thank them at the halftime mark once we get more people in here. But otherwise, we are also brought to you by ourselves. This week is the Great American Restoration Tour, the 10th event, double digits, our second time in Cocoa Beach, Florida. So grab your tickets.
Here on the sun-kissed shores of Cocoa Beach, where the ocean meets the horizon, the Great American Restoration Tour continues on November 6th through the 9th, 2025. Badlands Media gathers patriots like you, not just to talk, but to rebuild. From truth-telling panels to unbreakable bonds, we're restoring the soul of our nation, one conversation at a time. This is the heart of the Space Coast, where the rockets defy gravity and dreams touch the stars. Feel the thunder of innovation that powers America forward. Together, we're not just healing the past, we're blasting off into a brighter tomorrow. A future where truth prevails, families thrive, and America leads once more. Join us in Cocoa Beach. Get your seat or your virtual stream pass now at badlandsmedia.tv/events. Launch is imminent, and you don't want to miss this liftoff.
Texas Jules just pointed out, where's my boomerang? I just put it back there, right there. It's usually up on this shelf here, but yeah, you can't really see that. There's my boomerang. Texas Jules gave me. I didn't think of that. Anyway, yeah, Cocoa Beach, badlandsmedia.tv/events. Virtual tickets are on sale. We have single day tickets on sale as well for anybody who's in the area. Mrs. Wright, should I show the schedule on the screen, since I've screwed it up enough tonight, or not? She said she was rewinding the show to see if she was mad at me about something, but, so maybe too far gone. The other sponsor tonight is also us. It's our shop. When your favorite Badlands show wraps up without a raid, visit the Badlands website and explore our incredible sponsors. From products featured on the show to kickstarting your shopping list, the Badlands shop has you covered. Every purchase you make is a powerful vote for the future you believe in. We make it easy to shop America first, supporting Badlands creators and patriot small businesses that champion freedom. You're not just buying a product, you're fueling a movement with every dollar spent. Thank you for supporting businesses that support Badlands Media. Head on over to badlandsmedia.tv and click shop from the menu, or go directly to badlandsmedia.tv/shop. Okay, I'm just going to show the schedule. This is a draft schedule, I'll just say, for the sake of plausible deniability. But here's the schedule for Cocoa Beach. We get our shenanigans Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Karaoke is actually on the schedule. I don't know if this is the first time it's officially there, which feels like peer pressure. Like, it feels like that's now an official thing that we're expected to do. So I don't know how you feel about that, but we're going to talk about all the usual things: accelerationism, toxic unity, what is 1776, all kinds of things. So anyway, join us in person or virtual. Should be fun. And with that strange, weird intro out of the way, here is my strange and weird guest. First time guest, Cam Cooksey. What's up, man?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. I'm super excited, bro.
Yeah, there's already a lot of baddies shenanigans going on in the chat. What they try to do is throw us off, but they don't understand. We've been training for this, and you can't throw off what was never on in the first place. That's how I feel about it.
We're not playing the same game as them. They're playing checkers. We're playing chess over here.
Damn straight. Typical women. All right, man. Cam, this is our first time. We've crossed paths on Only Lands, as you do on Friday nights, etc. Some other stuff, but this is our first time sitting down doing a show. And as you know, on the narrative, I keep it fairly broad. We can go pretty much in any direction. Macro theme tonight is boomerangs. Are you a OG Q guy? Like, were you following the drops a long time ago? How'd you get into all this stuff?
So for me, I got into Q. I'll give you the short version. I got into Q in basically March of 2020. COVID, when the COVID thing happened, I've been anti like medicine, big medicine. That was big money and big medicine were my first two attacks. Like in high school, my dad gave me this documentary on how our money was created from like 10% of nothing. And then they end up making 90% on each dollar. It was like the most simple way to put it. And where I was just like, they've been fucking stealing from us. And then the Q drops when COVID happened, I was like, this is bullshit. This is H1N1. This is all those things from before. And so I was like, I'm not getting the jab. I'm not doing any of this shit. I'm not wearing a mask. I was like full on like revolt. And I was not a Trump supporter. I just was like, I agree with all these crazy MAGA people. Like, fuck that. You are not telling me to wear a mask. Like I got kicked out of like grocery stores and stuff. Like, and I'm the most polite person. Yeah. Like everyone else wants to fight, but I'm just like, cool, I'll leave. You don't get my money.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't going to do it. I wasn't going to comply. So that's when I found Q. And I've read every Q drop since then. During that COVID time, I read most of them and then I've been up to date.
That's interesting. Chris Paul had a similar timeline to that. Which is also interesting because, maybe it's only the three of us, but us three are the token former liberals of Badlands. I'd say, it was a little rough for former liberals early on in the MAGA sphere, but I think things are getting pretty good for us. I think it's good eating in 2025. Like, I think there's a little bit of a good-natured comeuppance, maybe, that a lot of Q conservatives have had to eat. They've had to swallow it this year by being like, they're like, there was always that undertone, even in the Badlands audience, of like, oh, well, I'd say I was a former liberal and, use it as a self-deprecation kind of thing, as we all do. And they'd be like, yeah, I never was, but that's good for you. Almost like I was always right.
I've never been wrong.
And, I'd kind of be like, I mean, there was the whole Middle East. There was a lot of stuff, but I think 2025, all it takes is spin a few dreidels in the wrong spot, and I think we've had I don't know. What do you think about that? Because I feel like, I think it's good, by the way. I'm saying this, I think it's good, but I think there's definitely a little more intra-MAGA focus, a little looking in the mirror this year than maybe we saw in the recent past.
Yeah, man. So first of all, I'll just come out and say it. You MAGA conservatives that were always conservatives. Don't get me wrong, we're together now. You guys got a little uppity. I've heard that term before. You guys got uppity. You got a little big for your britches. Because man, the Bush years, man. Like, yeah, I've heard you say it on so many shows, so I'll just give you my take on it. The Bush years were like, how can the people that I love and care about support this man?
Yeah.
Like when I said, like, to me, Barack Obama was worse than George W. Bush, but only because like he was after him. Like he added on to, like he was pushing us over the precipice. Like Bush was so bad. Like when I say bad, I don't mean a bad president as in like an idiot, whatever. That was a cover. Like his policy. Well, I mean, Dick Cheney was doing it, but like that was an evil time period. And I had like great friends and family friends, like parents, that we just disagreed on everything. And they loved me as a person, but I think they thought I was an idiot because I was like, I don't support this man. And to see them eat crow now, and they're all just like, yeah, George, I'm with Trump, man. W was a criminal, blah, blah. And I'm like, I was telling you guys that 20 years ago, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, that's been one of the most interesting things. There's so many ways to frame that conversation in 2025. I think about it all the time. We talk about it in various ways on the shows, but to have a productive conversation about it, because obviously we voted for idiots and tyrants. Conservatives voted for idiots and tyrants. But I think maybe what frustrates us at times, me, you, people at Badlands, many of the people in our audience, what frustrates them is I think it's indicative of the weird battle space Trump is navigating, where he rode the Republican Party as a construct in to the political zeitgeist. So you can't entirely blame the conservative audience for being like, yeah, this man is tied into conservative ideals. And I would say that if you look at conservative ideals on paper, yeah, he is tied into conservative ideals. I would also say if you look at liberal ideals on paper, he's tied into liberal ideals as well. It's just we don't talk about those anymore because liberal ideals has become like gay, trans, terrorism. It was like in some order, it's those three things basically.
Just something extreme that's not even like I don't even consider that like a side. That's just like a lunatic like stance on life. It just doesn't make sense. It goes against the laws of nature. Like whatever they're doing is against the laws of nature.
And tonight we're going to use like the Mamdani kind of template to talk about some of that tonight, because I thought that would be a fun conversation to have. But what I mean about the battle space is I think one of the most confusing things for like earnest MAGA conservatives who kind of repeat this talking point of, the Republican Party. I can't entirely blame them because Trump does use that rhetoric. I mean, I mentioned to you before the show, we both were watching a little bit of the 60 Minutes sit down with Trump, and he said that a couple of times, like the Democrats. So I get it, but I still think at the very least, MAGA people need to have their radars set and understand that just because Trump is using the Republican Party doesn't mean all the Republicans that are around him are like, we're back and this is all good now.
Yeah. One thing that I realized when I first started supporting Trump was like, this man is not going to be able to do what he wants to do if he just comes in and he just creates a revolution. Like J6, the idea of J6, the narrative of J6 is exactly what would have happened if Trump actually tried to do that. If he tried to come in and just like, I'm getting rid of the Republicans, the Democrats, I'm getting rid of all the corruption. I mean, he said it, but if he didn't play the game a little bit or use the system that they already had in place, he wouldn't have made any progress. And I think that's the brilliance of the man.
Yeah, I would also say it's funny because I think on Badlands in particular, we talk about election fraud more than anybody else, consistently anyway.
Right.
But to your point, I think he would have actually lost any election if he did that, because not through any fault of his, but to your point, even if he hadn't caused unrest by doing that, there's no way in 2016 in particular, running as an independent, that Republicans would have voted for him. There's no way. I mean, we know that most liberals wouldn't have voted for him because they didn't. But he won with the Republican, like, conservative vote. And there was no way that if he did not brand himself as a Republican, that they were going to do that at that point in time.
Right. Something I was thinking of when you just said that is one of the... So I personally believe, and I think other people do too, that like they've had their presidents picked out running both parties for a long time. Trump screwed that up for him. So Jeb was obviously supposed to be the nominee for the Republican side and Hillary for the Democrat side. If Trump would have run as an independent, he would have taken votes away more from Hillary, I think, and we would have gotten Jeb. If Trump would have run as a Democrat, he probably wouldn't have beat Hillary, but even if he did, I think he still would have lost to Jeb. I think the only way he would have won is going the conservative route against, I hate to say it, but a woman that is as evil as Hillary Clinton. You can get, there are so many misogynistic men in this world. I'm not even going to pretend like there aren't.
Yeah,
like there are guys that, they're the worst. But I mean, he won all their votes just by being a man, just by having a dick. like literally. But the Republicans were not going to run a woman, and there was no way that we could let them have another 4 years. We would have been fucked forever.
Yeah. It certainly feels like that. You reminded me of. Unfortunately, I was going to bolster your point, but I think I have to combat it because you just made me a little depressed, because we could have had, Cam, we could have had this. There is a timeline.
Oh my God.
There is a timeline. Every once in a while, I just think of this image. Like,
I've never seen this. I don't know how I haven't seen this on the internet.
Oh yeah, this was one of those like 4chan, 3 a.m. I don't go there anymore because it's too depressing. But back in the day, this was
I got
one of
there
those
too late,
things.
man. When I got to 4chan, they had like everything had basically gone off to like, what is it, like QAG and like a bunch of other like sub websites of it. Like, man, I miss those days. Like I hear you and Ghost joking about it all the time, and I'm just like, man, I was fucking left out. I was depressed over here, just like Obama's a piece of shit. We're about to get Hillary next. Like I just want to kill myself. Like not literally, but like there were times where I was like, what am I gonna do, man? Like I can't do another 40 years of this stuff. I don't know how to be an adult in this type of environment.
If we have time tonight in narrative time, I do want to touch on Gamergate, which I had messaged you about a little while ago, and that can bring us into 4chan. But yeah, short version is it's a cesspool now. I mean, and I think it's like an Intel cesspool. You see shit there that you don't want to see, so it'll depress you. There's no useful information there. I agree with you that it all migrated. But it used to kind of annoy, one of the funny things is when you mentioned Ghost, because him and I have bonded over that, like we were both on the chans, 10 years ago, just screwing around. But it was cool because, he was like a shit-eating wild man conservative, like lifelong conservative.
Yeah, I forgot you were on the, yep. You're on
I was a liberal, but like it shows you that the young male quotient at that time, under 25. I mean, when I first started going on 4chan when I was 18, 19, 20. It was in college. And my roommate everybody I knew that was on it. And we were just, it was the best play, like the most dank memes ever. Like every meme I would see circulating on Facebook a year later had been workshopped and perfected on the chans. That was one of them. Because I remember it was, there used to be these threads of this is what they stole from you. And it would just be like, that would be the thread starter and people would just post things. But that Jeb image was this is what they stole from me. But man, the Gamergate thing, like it used to annoy Ghost and I a little bit. There's a little bit of hipsterism with the original chans because the drops started on 4chan, as you said. Yeah. And it almost, once it became kind of mainstream conspiracy, 4chaners got really annoyed because a lot of like boomers, to be honest, were like the drops and this and that. And we're like, bitch, do you even know what a trip code is? Like, they're like, yeah, 4chan and image boards like that. Oh, if you only knew what was going on those boards.
Oh man, boomers ruin everything, right? I'm kidding, boomers. I'm kidding. My parents.
There's always one that's like, how dare you?
Right. I love my parents. They're boomers, but I think that I'll be honest with you with boomers. I think I said on one of the group shows or something, you guys have been like abused the most. That's why it's so hard for you guys to. That's why you're so offended, because like that was something for me as a kid. Like I was just told over and over again, like black people have been oppressed. Black people have been oppressed. My life wasn't like that, but I was taught it. I was told about the plight, all this stuff, and I started to just feel like I couldn't win, you know what I mean? And so you start snapping at your friends because they say something that like challenges your ideals, and like something like Donald Trump. Like I used to snap at my friends for saying Donald Trump was an outsider. I'm like, he's a billionaire. What do you mean? Mm-hmm. And I wasn't listening to the facts of what they were telling me. They're like, no, not an outsider to like high society, an outsider to like the cabal, like to the elite. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, the same people that you have been fighting against since you like woke up and became a truther, like the 9/11 hoax, the moon hoax. Like I was into all that stuff, and they were just like, just listen. And it was all the abuse and the brainwashing of telling me I'm a victim. And so yeah, I think that to bring it back to Donald Trump, 4chan, all that stuff, man, when you have an environment of like free speech and just like no rules, some of the most innovative shit can be created, man.
Yeah, and I think again, it's a little bit of a spoiler if we get to it later, but the Trump posting those Halo memes the other day, that was bigger, I think, a bigger signal than people understand. And this is when you can say the boomer thing, not meaning it as an insult, just of like, we always talk about on these shows, Trump speaks to different audiences and hits different audiences. He needs to deprogram a lot of boomers, a lot of our audience is boomers, have deprogrammed themselves. To your point, I mean, they were basically MK Ultra'd on a mass scale. So was our generation. We were cutting their dicks off, for God's sakes. At least boomers weren't doing that.
So real quick before you keep going, that was like when I learned, because we were like the first generation of kids that like actually did it. Like there are adults that did it that are Gen X and stuff, or like even older than that. But like when I found out that I had like people that I grew up with that like when we were 10 or 11 years old played soccer or basketball with, they're like, yeah, I feel like I'm a woman. I'm just like, ha, that's so gay. And then I come to find out like I'm committing a hate crime by saying that now. And I'm like, what the fuck? Where did this world come from? It's not the world I grew up in.
We have changed so fast. Speaking in college, when there was this kid on my floor in college, and we were all savages, who like we didn't know was gay, but if anybody was going to be gay, it was going to be him. And like we were all, you know what the irony was? I feel like we all acted gay on the floor except for him.
Yep.
And I was like, he's gay. He's definitely
That's
the
how
gay
it was
one.
in college, man.
He doesn't like playing grab ass, man. You gotta play a little grab ass every
it's
now and
not
again.
playing
or else
for him, man. That's why.
Right.
It's like I don't want to get in this game because I'll be the only one that gets excited, bro.
But I use him and that dynamic as a Overton window, like a retroactive Overton window, because 2 years or so after I graduated, we were in a Facebook group chat with all the guys on my floor, probably like 15 of us, and he posted in there couple years later and came out to all of us as gay. And I hadn't seen this until like 12 hours later. So it's all these like really nice messages like, hey man, we support you. You're still our friend, all this kind of stuff. Some of the most savage guys that I ever knew. And I just go in and go, can I still call you a faggot though? And I got text messages from every guy in that group. They were like, he just had the most vulnerable moment that anybody could ever have. How could you do that? Literally, he texted me and was like, thank you so much for what you did. Meanwhile, I would have just called him that anyway. But again, it's like, and then unfortunately, I didn't really keep tabs on him, but would see things flit across my feed over the next 10 years. And he became one of those, like, he was like a normal gay guy. And then the hyper politicization got to him, and it was Trump is Hitler, starts marching in gay pride shit and all that kind of stuff. And he was never into all that stuff. So now it's like, yeah, man, you're one of those ones I don't want around my kids, and I don't want around anything. And he's a teacher, of course. But at the time I knew him, he was like a normal gay guy. And this stuff, this culture war can accelerate people right off the edge.
Yeah, man, it was exponential, all that growth in these areas. And I was trying to remember what I was. Oh, so when you're talking about like for example, he was a normal gay person, and then the politicization and everything. I've seen it in all different cultures, but it's easiest for me to speak on the Black community, because even though I didn't grow up around like predominantly Black people, I did when I wasn't at school. Like school, I was around mostly white people, but also I had a lot of Jewish people at my school, so I have a lot of information on like Jewish culture and everything. like a lot, man. Like I mean, nice. Like more than most people would have. I've been to Seder's before. I've learned a lot.
Damn.
Man. But
I know very little about Jews, honestly.
I'll teach you one day. I'll teach you off screen. I'll tell you the real stuff off screen, and then we can filter it in. Not censor ourselves, but like pick and choose. I'm not worried about being canceled. I just like.
We talking dreidel Jews or tunnel Jews?
Both, man. That's the thing is like they have it's like Black families that like Black nuclear families versus like hood rat ratchet like not really families, but like groups of people that are related. You know what I'm saying? Like.
The ones that take white people names and just put a "la" in them. Like my mom's a teacher in a city in Boston, and it's It's like, you take a good Irish name and just throw something in there.
A "sha,"
and that makes it black.
A "sha," a "la," a sound. It's some sound.
Ain't no nuclear families doing that.
No, not at all. When you have a nuclear family. You realize that everyone's assets are tied together, so you want everyone to have a name that the government will look at and be like, "All right." You don't have to be like,
that's a good.
That was one big thing as like a big joke growing up was like, don't name your Black kids like Mercedes, whatever, all this stuff, because they're gonna look at that and they're gonna be like, "Oh, absolutely not." You want Frank Smith to be on the resume. No race and just Frank Smith. Frank Smith's getting hired.
Man, that'll dovetail perfectly into one of our topics. So what we're gonna do tonight, as usual, is talk about all the things we're going to talk about. And then by the time we're done doing that, we'll have talked about all of them and we will be done. But that I could boomerang that on you.
Boomerang,
because I get what you're saying, but in the paradigm in which they have been raised, the welfare state, the nanny state, you could argue that putting a Lashonda on that ID is pretty good. That's good eating. If you want to pop a few more of those out, get a new PlayStation, something like that.
You should change your name to Fuego Bright. They'll be like, oh, got a little Latin in him. Oh, yeah. Fuego. But yeah, no, you're totally right, man. Like, and that's the thing about you talk about all the time, and Ghost does too. But incentive structure, like these people are incentivized to stay on the teat of the government, and part of doing that is acting that way. Like, if it wasn't beneficial to act ridiculous like an uncivilized human being, people wouldn't do it because they would die off. But they're supported.
Yeah, damn straight. It's. I was just thinking, like, if you're reading maybe the advice to the Black community, because I can speak for you now. I feel like because
of course,
we've been doing a show.
You have me on your show, which means you're officially not racist. Like, the rule's over now. Game's over.
That's what I figured. This is narrative shielding, live action. If you find yourself, like, if you're a Black mom or dad out there and you're naming the kid, I'm just telling you. I'm not judging. I am, but I'm not. But I'm just giving some advice because we're clearly going into a different age.
Yeah.
If the person at the government office finds themselves going like this when they're reading your name, you got to pull back. Okay? Like, we're being too literal about it, where you're putting a la in there, you're putting a Sean or so. Like, you might be able to make it work. There's some things that you might be able to make work, but if they start doing this while they're reading your name, way too far. Yeah, you gotta back off. You gotta back all the way off. The food stamps aren't coming. Yeah.
Letitia James.
Doesn't matter how many head bobs you get into that name, you are not getting government assistance. In fact, we will revoke if there are like 3 head bobs in the reading of your name. Deported.
Yeah, 100%.
I think so.
Yeah, like even if you're a citizen, you should be deported because, like, what do you?
Oh, for sure. Especially
you should probably be deported first. Like, how dare you? You know
exactly. Better. Yeah, you become like an anti-citizen, like an anti-matter type of situation. But that goes for white people in trailer parks too. They do that shit. Oh, yeah. My wife, long before she was my wife, she would be referencing her friend Chantel all the time. And like, being a white kid who grew up in Boston, I'm like, obviously a Black girl.
Yep.
And then when I met her, it's like, nope, just a white Canadian chick. It's like, what? And then I find out that this was this French name,
dude,
that white people used to have.
My mind when you said that. We had a white girl in our school, at my predominantly white and Jewish school, with a lot of Asians too. Literally Chantel, right? See this girl for the first time. I'm like, no, you're not supposed to look like that. And she's like, my family's French Canadian, and I'm like, and like, you're still white. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, I knew like
so cultural
before her, and they were all Black. I'm like, no, you're not allowed to. Just like people say, I'm not supposed to be Cameron. You're not supposed to be Chantel.
Talk about a cultural appropriation. It's like, it's gone so far that I feel like white people are reappropriating Black names that were appropriated from them in the first place. But I don't know. That's a tough battle. That's a tough one to win, I think. The French people are trying, but we just still see you as Black chicks when you're trying that stuff. All right, man. Before the show, luckily he didn't counter-program us directly, but Donald Trump, we had the airing of a 60 Minutes episode. I watched like half of it, and then it was just too much. It started to get into it. You can tell in this world by now where you're like, it's all going to be bullshit, of course, when you're watching 60 Minutes, but you're like, there might be some funny and or useful bullshit. And then you can see where it's just veering down into the usual territory. So I bailed right when they started getting into like Ukraine and all that. But before then, I thought that there was some little tidbits there that were kind of funny. But did you see anything out of the 60 Minutes that you found noteworthy?
So I think you should go through yours because I think we cut it out right at the same time. Because when they went to the Ukraine stuff, and like, I think the last thing I cared about was Taiwan, because he said something about Xi doing that. But after that, I was just like, I really don't care about this anymore.
Same
so you go ahead and start. But like, I got 3 or 4 things. Basically, every topic he talked about, there was a little bit of signal in each one.
Yeah. My main takeaway from it is like the intro takeaway, which is
okay.
Kind of even response to some stuff John has said on DPH for the last year. I find myself thinking whenever there's a big high profile interview like that with Trump, why? And I don't immediately reject it and say this is stupid. I think he does things for a reason, but I'm really curious about why, which is why I'll, watch 20, 30 minutes of it or so to see if I could suss out like what is the purpose of him doing that. And the first note I'd written down was, this is a hit piece, which wouldn't shock anybody. But in light of the theme of tonight's show with the Boomerang, it made me think, when Trump does this, are these really hit pieces on him? Or are these hit pieces on the outlets that are covering him in these sit-down interviews? And it's open-ended. I don't have the answer to that. But it was one thing I thought, and maybe it's just the nature of news these days, and I'm not even trying to be like a dickhead chauvinist right now. I'm being a earnest chauvinist. It's always, when it's Donald Trump, it is always a bitchy white Karen. Yeah. Always. It used to be that you'd have some like serious seeming white guy or even a serious seeming black guy sit down and ask questions in a very serious manner. Even if they were trying to get the subject, like they were still respectful. But these women sit down and you can just see the seething, like you walk by, I'm sure Jackie never does this, but where you're like, are you mad at me? And they're like,
yeah, she never does this.
They kind of do that.
Yeah.
And that's like what all these interviewees do with Trump, even as he's beginning his answer. Yeah. And it just made me think, like, does Trump's press team request who interviews him? Because he would have the power to do that.
Yeah.
And instead of being like, give me I don't even know who like the 60 Minutes guy would be these days, or if there is one, but like even Anderson Cooper, like throw him onto something because he can still
there's a pasty black guy that they have on there. I forgot his name.
They powder him up real nice.
Yeah. Chappelle, I swear, Chappelle's character, I think it's Chuck Taylor, is supposed to be that guy. Like that's literally him.
Right.
And he's painted white. But
but that's what I thought at first. I was like,
what do you think? Which way are you leaning more?
I think
if you don't answer.
I think he knows. I think that they either request the specific person or they wait until they get that, right? Like they wait until they get that request. They're like, how bitchy is this bitch?
Yeah.
And they wait until they get like a 9 or a 10. It's like, yep, I'll sit down with her. And then Trump gets to sit down. And now that he's president, I feel like he's not being combative, really. He's just kind of sitting there being like, yeah, let's have a reasonable conversation. And she's like, well, you said
she's doing the head bob, man. She's doing the same head bob we were just talking about.
The white Karen lady head bob is totally different.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
It's more up here. It's not down here. And there's a different sort of inflection. It's like a
Botox.
manic.
It's the Botox, man. They can't move their faces, so they just have
right.
a little
but I don't know. That's the first thing I thought is just the tone of the interview of like, okay, this looks like a canned hunt of Donald Trump, but is this one of the Rorschach things where it's like they are actually trapped in the 60 Minutes interview with Donald Trump? I don't know.
Well, I was kicking myself when you guys, I think you did it on Story Hour, but the first time you brought up Rorschach and you explained it, I was like, how have I not seen this movie? But I absolutely love that scene when you played the scene. And that I think it's definitely that. I think that I like where you said that they wait to see who it is, because I think that if Donald Trump was to make a request, they would, because the regime still has some control over it. Like CBS is probably one of the only networks they have like almost full control over, because that's, the eyeball, man. That's the CIA's like a baby. But I do think that they wait, or maybe even they cancel. They'll be like, they have it set up, and if it's supposed to be one person, he's just like, no, I'm not going to do it. And then when they eventually get to the person, he's like, all right, timing's right. Because these are all, to me, they're either strategically placed, like he does the interview at a certain time, or the talking points are strategic, which is kind of any speech, or not speech, but interview. But like, he only does it when he knows that he's going to get out the signal that he wants to get out. And I think that's a perfect tie into the different topics that you want to bring up from the interview, because I'm telling you, man, every single one that she asked him, he spun it into a way where I was just like, I love it. And they were all boomerangs. It was surprising. Like, I almost think he knew when you said the name of the show. Like, when you sent me a message and told me the title, I think they were checking in on your inbox, and they were like, all right, we got to talk about that one tonight. Run that interview. Run the boomerang.
Hit him with some boomerangs. There was a couple signal tidbits that I'll get to that I picked up, but mostly it's stuff we've seen. I mean, none of it was anything earth-shattering, but yeah, the first boomerang I thought was just the framing of the interview. It's like, okay, here's another bitch. Right? Like, and I even, sometimes I try to think of that, of like just the guy, because they play it right between football games, right? It was right. Yep. I think it was after, because I didn't even turn it on. I had it
just came on.
Yeah, I had the Chiefs-Bills game on. Mm-hmm. And after kicking John's ass in fantasy football, I don't even need my guy to play tonight or tomorrow night. So we're getting back toward 500. So I just had the TV on, and it went to the 60 Minutes interview. But you imagine like the average person that just comes on. Most of the people that watch 60 Minutes, it just comes on. Even if they're not a Trump guy or girl, if they were watching football and then that comes on and they're like, oh, maybe I'll listen to the president, whether I like him or not. And their first reaction is like, Donald, you said you were going to end 9 wars and you've only ended 8.
I think she said that. Like,
she did say that.
Almost word for word.
I know you've ended 8 wars, and like you brought in that little sheet. I love how he brought out the sheet too. He was like, oh my God. let me show you the 8 wars I ended. He carries it around.
Ever since the speech that he did that and brought it out. Or actually, no, it wasn't a speech. It was the Caitlin Collins interview, I think it was, where he like pulled it out. Ever since then, whenever he reaches in his pocket, I'm just like, it's happening. It's happening.
Oh man. If you first of all, there's no such thing as a self-respecting DeSantis supporter. But if you were like if you were an earnest DeSantis supporter during all that nonsense, and you compare the energy of pulling gay porn out of your pocket versus just the wars you've ended. It's just,
Trump deals
I think
with
it's
wars. DeSantis deals with gay porn. That's his focus. Oh my God.
But I just love how he deploys his greatest achievements. Like, you get the feeling he would show that to his grandkids. He'd be like, look at what Papa did this week. Like, here's a little.
They show their pictures that they painted in preschool or kindergarten. And he's like, look what I did. I saved 100 million lives.
Yeah, and I actually think that it's intentionally silly. Like, I think it's intentionally silly, but I also think it's, you mentioned facts. It's like, if you do look into any of it, it's all true, right? Like, you can't argue with any of it. And but it just made me think, the people that phase into that show almost against their will, they're being confronted with just this just like this bitch that's talking to him, talking down to him. And I think even people that don't like Trump, but they want to see like an earnest back and forth, are getting annoyed at that style of interview where it's like, okay, I don't like the guy, but can we actually have a back and forth here so I can hear what he has to say? That's the major takeaway I had from it. There were some little things, but why don't you grab something?
Okay. But before I get to that, I literally had it and I totally forgot. But one of the actually, if you want, you can share my screen. I'll play the first, it's like a minute of hold on, let me put it down there. Do you have the thing? Oh, you have it up. All right. So this
look at it on the freeze frame.
The face, right?
Yep, this is the face.
I'll let it speak for itself because she's going to say economics and then she's going to ask about tariffs. I'll let it play for about like 45 seconds and then I'll tell you what I got from this part.
The economy. The signature part of your economic plan is tariffs. The Supreme Court is going to hear arguments this week on whether you have the authority to impose these sweeping tariffs without congressional approval. The lower courts have ruled against you. That's why it's at the Supreme Court right now.
Very close rulings,
What happens to your economic plan if the Supreme Court invalidates your tariffs?
I think our country will be immeasurably hurt. I think our economy will go to hell. Look, because of tariffs, we have the highest stock market we've ever had. Because of tariffs, 401ks at the highest level and this is millions and millions of people that we've ever had, 401ks. I think it's the most important subject discussed by the Supreme Court in 100 years.
I know your time is limited, so I do want
So that was the thing that got me. I know your time is limited, but he literally said, I think it's the most important thing that the Supreme Court has taken up in 100 years. And she goes, well, let me change the subject.
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
bet you everything.
She did that a few times. It's just funny. I should amend too. You know what? It isn't like the white Karen doesn't have as much of a head bob unless she gets real angry. Her go-to move is the chin back, chin tucked, just what?
Appalled. Oh, scoff.
Yep. And like if you get a black lady head bob going at a white Karen, that's what you'll get. You'll get that.
Oh man. Tangent, stay on tangent for a second. That is one of the most fascinating things to see in the wild. You're at a mall, you're at the grocery store, and you see it. You see a Letitia going after a Karen. You see this from Letitia. You see this from Karen. And if they get close to each other and they're both going back and forth, you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't even know what's going to happen, but that's hilarious.
Sometimes too. You'll get a transference where the white Karen will get some black qualities and just start going, except she doesn't have as much movement kind of while she's doing it. Yeah, man, sometimes usually those black ladies win those fights when it breaks, like at Costco. But every once in a while they run into the wrong Karen. And that was some city Karen that's thrown down before that grew up with brothers.
Yeah, man. It's don't judge a book by its cover, man. Don't judge a book by its cover.
I always do.
But well, except for Saving Soul, that covers up fucking awesome.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, Cam.
Plug it.
Because
Swordpunk Saving Soul.
Swordpunk Saving Soul. These 800 pounds of these babies showed up in my driveway a couple days ago. Oh, great, I just destroyed everything.
I don't know what just fell.
Baby monitor, it's fine. But 800 pounds of those just showed up in my office, and not in my office, at my house, and we are packaging those up, so they will be going out in the coming weeks.
Nice.
Make sure all my stuff is still working.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, but you were gonna actually bring up something that you want.
Oh yeah. So with Donald Trump, when he said most important thing in 100 years, the signal that I got from that, obviously the lower court's close ruling, he said, I'm ignoring the lady, but close rulings were defeated, or said that he didn't have the powers to do it. First of all, that's bullshit. He's the president. He's the executive of the executive branch, commander in chief. But the other thing is, like, that's precedent, man. Like that's so important, because I think that tariffs, and I think we all do, tariffs are going to be what funds this golden age, man. Bringing in money, not through taxing us, but taxing other countries. And so when he said that, I was just like, he does this for that reason. This lady comes in because they make it a big deal by attacking him. What he does is he flips it and says, yeah, I do think it's a big deal. And it's a big deal because we need this to have the highest stock market. And I won't play the part, but at some point she says something about like, well, the stock market being high doesn't relate to people getting food on their table. She was like, prices are up on food, gas. He's like, actually, they're not. The only thing that's up is beef, and beef, we can get that down easily, which ties into the Argentina thing. So like every time they attack him, he just throws little nuggets out there of facts while they're just slandering him and his administration.
Yeah, it's a good point about the Supreme Court section too, because there's times when he immediately shoots down whatever the argument is, like you said, about the food prices. But then there's times with the Supreme Court thing where it's like he lets them fully commit to a position. And he's like, yeah, I hope they do the right thing. We'll see. And she kind of fully commits to the mainstream opinion, or not mainstream opinion, to the mainstream media opinion of, well, this is going to go to the Supreme Court. And I think when there's those moments, most of us, I think, believe that the Supreme Court is backstopped. You know, you wouldn't be counting on it, that not being the case, if you were Trump and team with his agenda. So I think that's one of those things that they're not entirely sure about, which is why they're like, well, let's wait and see what the Supreme Court has to say about that. And he's like, yeah, let's wait and see what they have to say about it. So yeah, to your point, I think it's he uses it like anything she fully commits on, it's basically the mainstream media speaking to the public and saying, this is our position. Trump either mirrors it or boomerangs it and then plants those seeds. And then, usually I bet like the coming week, a lot of the very real and not at all fake news cycle is going to have all of the topics that were in that interview tonight.
For sure, man. Another one I saw was this. Oh, this one we don't have to play, but around like the 10-minute mark, she asked if he instructed the Justice Department to go after Comey, Bolton, and Letitia James. And at the end of that segment, she says, even though Donald Trump says no, here's a tweet where he says, and I won't pull up the tweet, but he basically says like, these people are criminals. This needs to be like handled now. And they're trying to say that's him directing the Justice Department in a Truth Social post to go do it. Because he says like Pam Bondi needs to do something now. I understand where she can spin that, but I think Donald Trump put that out there on purpose as bait for those people to ask that question. Because what he ends up saying is, he says when you have a crooked cop like Comey, a guy like Bolton, and he says, I don't know anything about it, but apparently he's had and then he lists what Bolton has been indicted for or whatever, taking the documents, I think it was. So he gets to say that, and then whatever he says about Letitia James, he says they came after me. He was like, I was totally innocent. They came after me. So he literally, I'm not in there with them. They're in here with me. Yeah. Like, she's like, are you using the powers of the presidency to evoke revenge? He's like, no, these people are trying to attack me. I'm not getting revenge, but if they come after me, I'm going to kill every single one of them. Like, obviously I'm paraphrasing, but like, It was beautiful to see him just be like, it's so easy to take these people down because they're guilty. I was innocent. And the law is just doing what the law is supposed to be doing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why they've fully committed to those positions. Even on a smaller note, the one you brought up about the stock market and 401ks and record highs. It's kind of funny because even if you can understand what she's saying and be like, yeah, that's true that the stock market being green does not necessarily translate. Like, there's a bigger bifurcation right now between people who hold assets like that. Trump was spinning it and being like, everyone has 401ks. It's like, well, boomers have 401ks.
Yeah.
Everyone below boomers do not have 401ks because most of the boomers who run businesses don't offer them to millennials. But anyway, I'm just saying.
Yeah. We're not gonna argue with you guys about your 401ks today. Not today.
Yeah. But I did think that it's kind of funny because it's like, isn't this the argument that you as the mainstream media have been making through all of the other administrations? Like, stock market is the marker by which we judge the health of an economy. And this is why one of the things I've been using in my writing is the weapons of the enemy refrain, and saying Trump is using their metrics for success against them. So to me, they're trapped on all these positions where they have to, you mentioned the rule of law is a great one. And then even the financial world, it's like Trump knows that the stock market is not the indicator of Main Street health, but they have programmed the audience that it is. So in order to beat him in the argument, they have to do one of two things: admit that his economy is great, which they're not going to do, or say that the metrics don't matter. And if the metrics don't matter, then they never mattered.
Yep.
And what does matter is the stuff Trump says matters. So again, I agree with you, the Rorschach refrain. It's like everywhere she steps in an interview, you get the impression he was like, you didn't see that one? All right. Yeah. If you want to go over there, we'll hit you with that too.
I've been playing chess on my phone a lot recently. I think it was either Ash or Jackie called me out during Alphas Make Sandwiches. I was in their chat popping off about like playing chess, and they're like, you never play chess. And I'm like, man, fuck them. I want to get good at chess. So if they ever challenge me, I'm gonna whoop their ass. So I've been playing, like, I started at the beginner thing. It was easy. Then I went to intermediate, and at first I just kept losing, and I'm like, I know I'm decent at chess. Like, I played growing up, learned from like grandmasters. I'm not special at chess, but I know the game. And I was like, what keeps happening? And what happened was I always got stuck in the same thing that the mainstream media is stuck in. I always got stuck to where, like, I was so ready to attack because, like, I saw these moves and I saw where they could get me, but they were 2 steps ahead of me, to where every time I got to where I was in my setup, they'd have me trapped to where I had to either give up a very valuable piece or completely change my attack. But if you change your attack, then they get to attack you from the other side, and I have no way to defend it. But like, I literally fucked myself from going too hard at the beginning of the match. And so I feel like that's what happens to the mainstream media, is they're so like TDS driven. They have blood in their eyes, and like they're so scared. They're so scared that they're just coming after this man with everything they've got. And as a fighter, like when someone comes at you like that, dude, you're about to whoop their ass. Like when you're calm and they're erratic, and that's what Trump does. He puts them in situations where they have to choose, like, do you want to get knocked out or do you want to get choked out? Either way, I'm taking you down.
And as he has said himself a million times, when he hits, it's 10 times harder. And it's like, people think it's all cliches. Yeah, I infamously, at least in my training circles, I went 0-2 to start my kickboxing run because I just wiled it out right away. I was like, I had a whole plan. This is going to go great. I'm going to stick and move. And bell rang, boom, just like shot across the ring right into a kick. My first exchange, I broke my nose. And yeah, so that was rough. Then I took a year off and figured it out, and things went a lot better after that. But yeah, it was, I mean, being able to, you can see that if you look at this sit-down interview in 2025, compared to his demeanor in 2016, if he was in that same sit-down interview, I think part of it is intentional. Maybe he was deploying a different energy on purpose. Yeah. But some of it, I think, is more to your point, is that there is, like, you can only workshop, even if we think the Trump plan goes back a long, long time, which I do think so.
Yeah, me too.
You can only workshop being attacked by the entire media apparatus so many times in a skiff before you actually have to go do it. And that's like that's the different thing. There's going to be some interviewer, and we've seen it before with him years ago, where one of them kind of gets to him and he kind of comes off in a way that he doesn't mean to. And I don't even care when he's insulting. It's more like he doesn't always say what he intends to say years ago. And I think
he got
recently,
caught up in fighting them instead of his talking points that he was trying to portray.
Right. And I think now he does do that. I mean, he like you get the impression that he's never really rattled there. And yeah, I remember when I was fighting, I used to interview fighters as well. I was moonlighting in the media space myself. But how
was that, if you don't mind me asking? Because I feel like that's kind of
talking to the fighters.
Yeah, like, so the reason for the audience, I know that they understand, obviously this is the show, the narrative. So I'm not literally talking about fighting, but the idea of being involved in a sport or in a whatever type of competition, but also being on the outside in the media, because most people are one or the other. They're either the man in the arena or the man writing about the man in the arena. So what was that like?
That was weird, actually, because I've long said, I used to say it a little bit at the time, but it's only grown since. I was in combat sports media, and the people who hate fighters the most are combat sports media. And it's so funny because there are so many parallels to the MAGA thing and all of that, where it's like, the mainstream media hates MAGA and they hate Americans. But I really started to notice that because when I was first in the media, I knew that they were all liberal. I mean, I was liberal at the time, but I was kind of a disillusioned liberal when I was I think I was like 2009, 2010 was when I first kind of got into the media space. So I was like just beginning my black-pilled liberal arc on the back of Obama. But they didn't talk politics a lot. Like, they all seemed to really be passionate about the sport. And then as the era of Trump started, the only sport that really gravitated to him, like on the whole culture of the sport, was MMA.
I'll just say it, only sport, man, because I felt like UFC is the one sport that I didn't follow. Like, honestly, I don't think I watched like a full UFC fight until I met you in person. Like, I think that was the first. I was just like, you know what, like, because I knew the culture, and I knew that the good guys that have been in. I have friends that are MMA fighters and stuff like that. But like, I've never been into violence when it wasn't like a ball involved.
Yeah.
Like, just
I totally get that.
Man combat. Like, but I respected the shit out of you guys. Like, it was just not for me because I'll be honest, I was a little bitch. Like, I didn't like watching people get their faces pummeled. Like, I didn't like watching World Star fights. Like, that was.
I don't like that. You know what's funny? I hate watching street fights.
Yeah.
Like, it makes me.
There's no honor.
But it is
There's
weird.
no honor, man.
There's a cognitive dissonance, though, to your point. Like, I'm very tense and uncomfortable if I see like real world violence. But part of that is informed by, even though I was never in the military and in life or death, one of the things I always say, and Alpha was a Gold Glove. Alpha boxed, by the way.
Oh yeah, he did say that one time. Yeah.
So me and him have talked about that, and he's backed me up because he's somebody who's actually had bullets fly by his head. But I've said, when you're fighting somebody who's a professionally trained fighter, your body does not know you're not going to die when you get hit. Like there's, so it puts you in this primal headspace, but there's a big difference when I see like people just get into violence, and they don't know what they're doing. It's interesting because I really don't see it as fighting when I'm watching it. It's like I see it, you mentioned chess, and this is the biggest cliche ever among martial artists, but like that's what I see it as. I see, and actually he's turned into a mainstream sports media like clown in the last decade, but Max Kellerman used to be...
Oh man, dude. I used to love that dude, man. And
he was
he's Jewish too, which was always funny to me.
They all are.
I was like, this
Stephen A.
Yep. Oh my God, Stephen A. is like Amari Stoudemire. I don't know if you know this, but Amari Stoudemire is like the only black Jewish person, like fully black, because Lenny Kravitz is his mom, I think, was Jewish, or his dad was Jewish, or something like that. But yeah, Stephen A. Like, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole because I get visibly angry when I hear Stephen. That's why I love Max Kellerman so much, because he'd whoop Stephen A.'s ass with facts. But Stephen A. is like the black man, and Max Kellerman's like, it's not that he's black, it's that he's an idiot. He's like, no, it's because he's black.
I enjoy me every once in a while, though, a highlight video of Max Kellerman talking about the Tom Brady cliff for 8 years before it arrived, and that there were 5 more Super Bowls before he fell off the cliff.
He's about to fall off the cliff.
Yeah.
Next year.
But Max, a lot of people don't know because they know him from like shouting matches with Stephen A. Max Kellerman was a boxing announcer for a long time, for like 10 plus.
I only know that from movies.
Yeah, maybe like 15 years. He was really good, really good. Like as a boxer, kickboxer, he knows his stuff. Like he was often very good at knowing the complexion of how a fight was gonna play out based on the fighters. He did boxing, not MMA. But the reason I bring him up is that he one time perfectly encapsulated, oddly enough, what I find so appealing about fighting. He said, every other sport is ultimately a play-acting metaphor for what fighting just is. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because like people tried to argue with him about it, and ultimately all ended up conceding, where he was like, watch a football game, watch a soccer game, watch a hockey game, watch this, watch that, watch this. If it's a tense game, if it's like really dramatic and like really good, they will start using fighting terminology and fighting metaphors and fighting this and fighting that. And like, it's a comeback and he's going to hit him with a counter and he's going to do this. And it's like, because ultimately what all these games are is ways humans invented to defeat each other without hurting each other, like without causing violence to each other. Otherwise, there'd be no such thing as a game. The only point of a game is to beat somebody else at it. And in fighting, I always was attracted. I hated team sports growing up. Like now I like them as an adult. But as a kid, I hated it because I felt nothing if I won and nothing if I lost. And it wasn't until my parents got me into fighting that it was just like, oh, man, like when I lost, I was just like, I've never felt more horrible my whole fucking life than after you lose a fight. Because there's no argument, right? Like there's no like talking shit. Like you're just
cheated. He cheated. Like,
well, I totally thought I would have won. Yeah. But it's like you can't go.
You know,
if
you got your ass whooped.
Yeah, exactly. Like my first fight, when I remember my hair was stuck up with blood and everywhere. Yeah. There was no getting off the mat and being like, well, like if he hadn't have totally kicked my ass, I totally would have won that game. Right. And if you watch any other sport, it's just like they strike fighters as children in the way they talk about these things. They're like, obviously you're a soccer guy, but like that in particular, where I know it's part of the sport.
Go after them. Go after soccer, man.
Well, just the stuff of like, it is so hard for somebody who was in combat sports to watch grown men fall down, and they know that what they're doing. Like I know that what they're doing is part of the game, and it happens in basketball too. But it's like, it's hard for me to watch grown men do that and then be like, we're prized athletes. And the irony is, if those guys trained to fight from the time they were kids, they'd be better than most fighters because they're super athletes. But it's just,
true.
I thought Kellerman encapsulated it well, where he was just like, this is just the thing. You watch these two guys fight, and there's no more. Like Khabib Conor, that's it.
Yeah.
There's no like, well, who's defense and who's offense? It's like, let's just see. And that's the end of the argument, basically.
Yeah. I love that, man. Yeah, it's when you were saying that, I was just going through like soccer terminology, and it's other sports too, but like counterattack. Like there is something called a counterattack in every like transitional sport. Anything that's not like football, where it's like you pick sides, offense, defense. Like there's a counterattack that comes from fighting. That doesn't come from anything else. It comes from fighting. And there's so many other things. Like, yeah, it's fighting. Fighting is what it is, and all the other sports are just imitating it. And I think that's kind of what I guess it's not totally what Trump does, but it's kind of what Trump does. Like I almost feel like Trump's a UFC fighter, whereas everybody else is playing soccer or basketball or football or something like that. Like it's almost like he knows, because they tried to kill him. Like for him, it's basically life or death. Like obviously it's not literally every argument, but in the end, it's like it can be life or death in that moment. You never know when you're going to get killed for whatever you say or do. Whereas for these people in their head, it's just like, all right, well, I can just outlast Trump. Like we may not win this season, but we'll get him next year, guys. Like, you know what I mean? Like next season will be our year. Like Tom Brady's going to fall off the cliff eventually. We're going to eventually beat him. But,
yeah. No, it's a good point, man. It's funny because like even the Patriots are like looking good this year again. And it's actually kind of funny because they've won 7 in a row, maybe something like
I think 6 in a row.
Six in a row.
Yeah.
So either way, like, okay, great win streak, right? For the NFL, that's a good win streak. Yeah. If you win 6 fights in a row at the top, not coming up, like that's not uncommon. To get to the UFC, you've got to probably win 10 fights in a row at some point. But to be in the UFC and then to be a champion and to win 6 fights in a row is like the level of difficulty to do that is absolutely astounding. And that's why like it's different too, because, you know, in fighting, even in the NFL, you have, I like the NFL more than the other sports. Part of the reason is the less the better to me, not objectively, but because it means more. One of the reasons I can't get into a basketball season, or even I like hockey, but I don't watch regular season hockey because who fucking cares?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, you went on a 6-game losing streak? That literally doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Baseball's the worst, man. The year the Braves won the World Series in 2021, we were like we were like 15 games out of like first place in our division. We made some trades and went on like a 20-game win streak. Now that was miraculous. Got us to the playoffs. We were able to win and everything. But like that's a once in like 20, 30 years thing. Like everybody else that goes on 20, 30 game win streaks, you're like, who cares? Like when it gets October, I'll watch it. And even then it's like, if you don't win your series, nobody cared about it. No, it didn't matter unless you're the Dodgers and you paid $1 billion for your roster. And then you end up beating a team from Canada that paid a lot of money for their roster, but just not as much. It's kind of a pointless sport at that point.
Yeah, exactly. 162 games. It's like, so how do I get into this exactly? And it's actually kind of funny too, because with fighting, it's good and bad. But with fighting, one of the reasons you don't see that is that those fights, like I've said this to John and stuff when they've been joking around, like if you've ever been kicked by a professional kicker, like it will change the way you see these fights, because a lot of the seemingly nothing exchanges are the level of impact that the guys are taking, and they're just kind of like, oh, that was fine, because they know how to move and they know how to leg check and all that kind of stuff. That's why they can't play 5 seasons of 82 games. Like, when you see a guy like St. Pierre that goes 8 years without losing in a sport like that, it's ridiculous. But to bring it back to Trump, to your point there, I think you're right about the, I didn't even think of it from the perspective of him getting the assassination attempt. Obviously that makes it much more of a real war, right? But even besides that, one of the things I agree with you about the fighter analogies, not just because they're easy, but I think that's part of the gift he's given the American mindscape, which is that right when he came down the escalator, he basically completely upended the rules of U.S. politics and just was like, this is a fight. Yeah. And going all the way back full circle to the start of the show, speaking of a lot of the conservative audience that he was originally going after, one of the things they didn't like about him at first was how jarring that was. Like, he basically came into their party and started a brawl, and that was the point. Like, that was a feature of his whole strategy.
Yeah, and we needed it, man. We really needed it because for me, the same reason why. So I didn't say this before, and I'm not knocking you. And I know you've defended yourself before, but I didn't vote for Obama.
Yeah,
I legit. So I didn't vote until Trump. Trump was the first person I voted
black,
for.
Cam.
Exactly, man. But no, so in 2008, I remember like I was actually happy that Obama won, because the reason I was happy he won was because I didn't trust any of them. I thought they were all criminals, and I was like, we have a black president now, half black, whatever. Yeah,
or politicians.
Politicians, man, politicians. I trust my people, some of them. But I was just like, now we can get past the race thing, and boy, was I fucking wrong.
The race thing has not yet begun.
Yeah, well, that was the narrative at the time. Was like, we're all equal now. We finally have a black person in the White House, and then the jokes would be, we're definitely equal because we got a half black and half white president, so everybody's happy except for the Asians. But like, that would be the joke or whatever. But man, was I wrong? And the reason I brought all that up was Trump had to come in and basically just like, he basically went into like a jam, not a jam session. Yeah, no, a jam session, like a jam studio session, and started a mosh pit and started playing heavy metal music. And these people were just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
But we needed that, because for me, like, every single person that came up was not to be trusted. The only way you can be trusted is by coming in and saying foul shit that can get you canceled. Because if you're going to say that, that means you mean it. Why would you risk your life, your reputation, your money, all this stuff to say outlandish shit if you didn't really mean it? And that's why I was like, I'm starting to like this guy a little bit more. And then the Q drops hit, and I was just like, that's it for me.
Yeah, it's funny actually. My path wasn't that dissimilar. I originally was surprised to find myself rooting for Trump in 2016, not because I was a liberal, but more because I was disillusioned. To your point, I was like, I was at the same place where I kind of came into it being like, they're all criminals. I did vote for Obama the first time, but not the second time. I didn't vote for anybody the second time. I was just like, I'm out. And with Trump, I was like, maybe there's hope that he can destroy all of it.
Yeah.
That was more what I was looking at. And
when did Law Abiding Citizen come out? When did Law Abiding Citizen come out? Because that might have been what influenced you. Because if that's the case,
2009.
Okay, then it definitely did. Because for me, when I think it came from the Q drops, but like, so I didn't vote for Hillary either. Obvious, there's no way I would have voted for Hillary. Maybe Obama, but I didn't vote for any of them. But when I finally came around to Trump, it was the same thing, because I was just like, he was already here. The reason I was upset from the talking points of the media, all this stuff, was really just Trump doing what I had been asking for the last like 20 years of my life before I knew he existed. Like, I had been psyoped. And so when he started doing that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start supporting this guy, because back to law-abiding citizen, I'm going to bring the whole corrupt disease temple down. I was like, the only way to fix it is to burn it all to the ground, man. I don't want a violent revolution, but if it's like, guys, everyone that's listening, all the media, or not the media, the feds and everybody that's listening, this is prior me, and it was figurative. But at the time, I didn't care what was done as long as the old guard was removed. Like, I was Malcolm X by any means necessary. This was before I even started like joining on the Trump side. This is like 2016 to 2020. But when he came in, I was just like, if he does that, that's great. But at least they're not going to be able to keep doing with it. He disrupted them. That's all I wanted, was disruption.
Right. Yeah, disruption's a good word for it. And that's what I wanted. It was like, I used to call him the bull in the china shop. Yep. And I think in hindsight, that was a big part of the point. I was like, man, this guy might be chaotic enough to really throw some needed chaos into the system. And now it's like, obviously that was a feature. It's like, I always think of, in that 2016 era, in hindsight, I always think of the infamous Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, but when he burns the money, like that's what I think of 2016 Trump. It's like, he is crazy, but he knows exactly what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
Like that, when you get the Russian who's like, you're a freak. You're a freak. Like, Trump got the whole system.
I'm not a freak.
He got these other career criminals to do that. Like, they're like, all right, we can use this madman for a while. He might be useful. We can kind of write off his coattails, and he's a cultural moment. And then he starts burning the money, and they're like, oh no, what have we done?
That's a perfect segue because I don't know if they might have talked about it in this interview, but the USAID, that whole deployment and everything, that was him literally burning their money. That was a moment like they had already turned on him before because he had cut off funding from other things. But when he cut off that NGO funding, all that stuff, that was literally him being the Joker saying, you guys are over here trying to do this. We need a better class of criminal. But obviously Trump's not a criminal, but he literally started burning the money in front of him. And he has his dogs around him, just like the Joker had, is like, don't try to stop me from burning this money. This is just my money I'm burning. I'm making a statement right here.
Good shit, man. Let's use that as a transition, a halftime transition. I'll thank our main show sponsor, and then we'll get into some other stuff. But yeah, this is think of Donald Trump assaulting the temple from the perspective of other career criminals. Again, the layers of signal in the Dark Knight trilogy as it relates to the Trump story are astounding.
No, so crazy as you look.
I told you, I'm a man of my word. Where's the Italian?
All tactical units will converge on the location in 20 minutes. I want auxiliary units to cover all possible getaway routes.
Wait. Dr. Matt, what do you do with all your money?
You see, I'm a guy of simple taste. I enjoy dynamite, and gunpowder, and gasoline.
What's it?
And you know the thing that they have in common? They're cheap.
Said you were a man of silver.
Oh, I am. I'm only burning my half. All you care about is money. This town deserves a better class of criminal. And I'm gonna give it to them. Tell your men they work for me now. This is my city.
You won't work for a freak.
Why don't we cut you up into little pieces and feed you to your pooches? And then we'll see how loyal a hungry dog really is. It's not about money. It's about sending a message.
Boom.
Man, I gotta rewatch again. Trigger. That's
that trilogy, man. I think that might be my favorite trilogy, and I'm not knocking your favorite trilogy. When I was younger, this won't surprise people, me being black, but I wasn't a strong reader. So for me, like I started reading The Hobbit, and like I just kept falling asleep because the book was so small and it was it was overwhelming for me. But when the movies came out, I loved the movies. But like all my friends read the books and they would be talking about the books, and I'm just like, shit. Like I'm like halfway there to where you guys understand. Like I did not remember like any of the names of like the different groups of people besides like the elves and dwarves and stuff. I didn't remember the city names and stuff like that. And all my friends like knew it by heart. They'd like role play and stuff. And I'm just like, yeah, that's not.
I grew up reading fantasy though. And I think like it starts to build like certain terms that just get repurposed and everything. But
I was an autobiography guy. I was an autobiography guy. So I was all historical stuff.
I have noticed, though, in the publishing industry, even 10 years ago when I was predominantly in that, there is a big difference, even in hardcore kind of fantasy and fiction readers. Mm-hmm. There is I don't know if it's concerning or not, like it's up to everybody else's tastes, but people have a hard time connecting with the way in which guys like Tolkien wrote. Like he was very lyrical and wrote in a very... lyrical manner, like very paid attention to etymology and all that kind of stuff, where there's a modern trend across genres of clarity writing, clear writing. Some of the people hate my writing because it's not, that's not what it's like. But there's a thought process behind that, which is more about like, getting people's thought paths kind of spinning down different directions. And I find a lot of modern writing, like when you're talking about an autobiography or something, I expect clear writing. Like I expect, you're telling me about something. But if you're like trying to get me into a world, or you've got some themes or some things that you want me to get invested in, and then you're just like speaking in normal everyday language, it actually breaks immersion for me. But for a lot of young readers today, it's the opposite. When you start talking in lyrical tones, They're like, what are you doing? That's weird.
When I grew up, I just realized. So when I was growing up, I went to a Montessori school to start. When I was a kid, dude, we were like, I'll give my parents the most props. We were so cultured. Like once, I think it was the first Tuesday or Monday of every month from like, I think it was 3rd grade to 5th grade. We went to a play at the Fox Theater or at Shakespeare's Tavern. Like we did the Canterbury Tales when we were in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Like we did a bunch of stuff. So I actually used to really like C.S. Lewis was one of my favorite authors growing up. Like I used to read all those fantasy stories. And then when I got into Tolkien around the time I went to public school. Like when I left and went to public school, and the way I was learning there and like my English classes and stuff, I started to like hate reading. Like I liked reading before. I wasn't a strong reader, but I liked reading. And then I started to hate it. And I think that the reason I enjoy your writing is because it's taking me back to what I had learned before. But when I was in that middle phase of like just like the public school system, the way they teach you is clear. So if you don't understand, like for example, on like the SATs, like I always thought reading comprehension on the SATs was stupid because it's like confusing clear writing. Like that doesn't take you anywhere. It's just trying to trip you up with like extremely clear and boring stuff. So I'd catch myself rereading passages like 3 times on the SAT because I'd drift off because I'm like, this is so boring. Like, why am I doing this? So I think that might be part of it.
Totally, man. I've said on the show before, I hated reading when I was a kid, and I blame school for it. I remember like having to read Catcher in the Rye and all this shit, which, you know, I could probably read at this point in time and take something out of it. But a lot of it was this very plain, clear writing that I hated. But also now that I have as I grew up, I started to explore more than just fantasy and read all the American classics and read the Russians and read the British and all that kind of stuff. I don't have much time to give the Brits, but there was a few of them that I liked.
They don't deserve enough
Tolkien.
time.
Yeah.
We just gotta watch out for them. They're sneaky. They're sneaky.
Yeah, they are sneaky. But I will say, I also think that the subject matter, in hindsight, the authors I used to be like, it's the writing that kids in 2002 can't identify with, right? Like you're having them read a novel from 1960 and they can't identify with it. I actually don't think it's that. I think they were picking the wrong writers, and they were picking writers that are all nihilist. Like if you look back into all of those books that masquerade as high art, especially American literature, it's all Hemingway imitators. And Hemingway was a depressed motherfucker, but he was also a brilliant guy and a brilliant writer. They all took the wrong, this is quite a rabbit trail, but hey, it's what we do. Hemingway, if anybody has not read Hemingway and like wasn't into literature and all that shit because maybe public school beat it out of you, I would highly recommend revisiting some Hemingway, because what's really interesting is I would say Hemingway is the perfect bridge between what you're talking about and then the lyrical writing I'm talking about. He was the guy that like broke the mold of that old lyrical writing and started writing in a very concise manner. So it's the opposite of how I write, but I love it because Hemingway was saying a lot with very concise writing.
Okay.
And I think a lot of American writers that followed him were mimicking his writing style.
Right.
But they didn't have anything to say. So like when you read Catcher in the Rye, it's short clipped sentences, very morose, direct writing. But you're like, what's the fucking point? This kid's depressed? It's like, yeah. Like it's the James Dean kind of thing. It's like, well, he's sitting on a corner smoking a cigarette. He must be interesting. And it's like, he's not fucking interesting.
No, he's
just doing this. Whereas Hemingway would write these like banger lines that would have you sit back and be like, damn, holy shit. So yeah, I think they took the wrong lessons. Just like on the other end of the spectrum, there's a lot of fantasy writers that like write these flowery, complex sentences thinking they're doing Tolkien. And then you get to the end of it and you're like, that doesn't even make any fucking sense. Why did you say it that way, right? So
because it sounded fancy, man. That's the I love that you brought up both of those mimicking writers, if you will. I learned, or I've seen over the years. I really do think it goes back to my Montessori upbringing, because the thing that Montessori teaches people, for the people that don't know, I think a lot of you do know, they teach you how to learn. They don't teach you what to learn. Like I learned. my teachers gave me, there were assignments, there were no grades. You basically had to do stuff, but the incentive structure was you're going to be the retarded kid in class. Like seriously, like if you're the kid that can't read fast as everyone else is going to be reading Tolkien and you're going to still be reading like some tiny little book. So that was the incentive structure, but it wasn't like it wasn't unhealthy. It was healthy competition. But what I did and what my friends did and other people in schools and people that weren't in Montessori school but that just learned how to learn from their parents or from good teachers is that when you read a person like Hemingway, like for me, whenever I read something from you, I'm not just reading your words. I'm trying to see what your mindset was at when you were writing. Obviously, I can't get in your head, but like I'm like, okay, so I've read BB's writing before. He's talking about Trump in this when he's talking about we'll say it's Boomerang or something. He's talking about Boomerang. And then as you're writing, I'm reading your words, I'm getting the imagery, you're taking me to a place, but I'm also getting the feel of like what your brain was doing when you were writing those words. Whereas most people, when they read like a Hemingway, especially for school, what they do is they say, oh, he's one of the best, I need to write like him, I need to he used this word, I'm going to find a way to put this. It's like plug and play. It's like a Mad Libs writing. They're like, I'm going to use a bit of Hemingway's imagery and a bit of Edgar Allan Poe's, and I'm going to use some beatnik stuff, from the 50s or whatever, and mix that in there and make it all like cutesy whatever. And then people are going to be like, wow, they took from the greats. But it's just choppy. It's not art. It's not like you said you read Russians. Well, if you go to Russian theater or Russian music, like the reason they have beautiful pieces of art and literature is because the Russians are like everything is everything's connected for them. Everything is holistic for them.
Damn straight. It's funny. I did my thesis in university on Russian literature, of course. Got into that. Nice. I didn't like it at first because I found it very depressing, which, the Russians are going to write about some depressing shit. But yeah, there's a lot of similarities to the Russian greats and Hemingway. Like there's a ton of crossover there because they have this fierce sovereign spirit that's kind of throughout the writing, but they're very direct too, like in the way they say things. They just say it super direct. I even had a Hemingway quote as an example of short lines that say a lot. One of my favorites was, "I am afraid, my captain," the soldier said with dignity. And it's like this, if you just hear it the first time, you're like, okay, you go on to the next line, but then you're like, hold on, what? And it's one of those like rule breaking lines that Hemingway would do, where it's like, he didn't write a 1,000-word soliloquy into the night of the two soldiers in the trench. He just said, this guy's afraid, and he's saying it out loud, and that's why he has dignity. It's like, that's it. It's that simple. Yeah. It's just, it's that simple and beautiful. Solzhenitsyn's a great one. Where was the, well, maybe we'll get to it later, but there's a lot of great Russian literature. Let me thank our sponsor. Then we'll get into some other shit. Our main show sponsor tonight is our friends at Save Pulse. Save Pulse is dedicated to keeping you and your family healthy with top quality medications like amoxicillin, azithromycin, ivermectin, and hydroxychloroquine at unbeatable prices. The streamlined ordering process makes it easy to stock up on all your health essentials. And now with exciting news about fenbendazole showing promise in cancer research, they proudly offer this alongside antibiotics and viral care meds. Don't wait. Prepare for any health scenario today. Get your supply and stay ahead of the curve with Save Pulse. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/meds. Use the promo code SAVEHEALTH at checkout to get a 20% discount on orders over $100. Please note that some packages have been held up at customs recently, but they are now en route to their destinations. badlandsmedia.tv/meds. Promo code Badlands. That saves you 20% on orders over $100. Thank you very much to Save Pulse for sponsoring this show. Yeah, people are like, I'm geeking out on the literature conversation, but it's good shit. Tolstoy, Anna Karenina, Smay 60s. That's what I wrote my thesis on. And it was so funny. My capstone course was
capstone. I forgot about capstone.
Yeah, it was on Russian literature. And we had, I think, 2 semesters. I think it was a whole school year. And there was no work due except for the last day. You had to hand in like a big
capstone
paper
project, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was in this group with a couple of girls, and like the whole time it's like, oh, what are you working on? What are you working on? They thought I was joking for months when I was like, oh, I haven't started it. I was like, that's just not how I think. And the whole time
I was the
they're like,
same way, bro.
yeah,
I was
they're like,
the same way.
they're like, what are you gonna do? Like the week it was due,
Yeah.
and I literally wrote it the night before and got an A plus, and they were so fucking mad. I was like, this is the thing I'm good at. Like all this other shit, if I coast that hard, I won't get an A plus. But with this, I'm like, I've been thinking about it. I'm just not writing stuff down about it.
Yeah.
But it was on Anna Karenina, so shout out.
What time
Shout out
period
to
was she alive in or writing during?
When was that? Let me see. I want to say it was 1878.
Okay.
Really interesting time period.
Yeah.
Because it's when the Russians and the Americans were trying to partner up on a Bering Strait project.
Oh, Boomerang? Much?
And then this little thing happened. Somehow the US kind of started fracturing from within, and all these splinters started forming, and then a little civil war kicked off, and then everybody kind of forgot about partnering with the Russians and the Tsars on the Bering Strait. So Anna Karenina is the name of the book, and it's the name of a character in the book.
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm gonna find, you know what? I'm finding that Solzhenitsyn.
Do it, man. While you're doing that, I'll vamp for a second. So there's something. So I thought that Anna Karenina was a writer, so that actually throws off what I was gonna say. But I think it's very interesting that I feel like there's been a few Russian women in history that like there's something about Russia and their women that kind of fascinates me. And I don't mean it from a weird way, guys. Chill out in the chat.
You can mean it in a weird way. It's all
like, I mean, if I wanted to, I would. I'm differentiating right now. But yeah, no, it's so funny because when you first started talking about Russia, righteous Russia, I was like, I can see it, but I don't know, man. Like, it makes sense because your angles were perfect because you were basically saying Trump's enemies are Putin's enemies, and I was like, well, I mean, that sold me. But Russia, really? And then when you start digging, you're just like, oh my god, like Russia did. And this is my opinion, obviously, because there's people like JB who's fucking JB is so stuck in his ways, man. Like China and Russia.
Boy, bring me back to Cocoa Beach 1.
Dude, China
panel.
I don't think JB would I think if Xi and Putin gave the keys to their cities to Trump and he ran China and Russia, he still wouldn't trust him. Like, absolutely.
Well, he would
not.
he would see it as them submitting to Trump.
Yeah.
Like that's
true. That's true.
That's
true.
what Trump plays with that as well.
Yeah. But my thing is when I rabbit hole of Russia, it's literally what you said. Like Russia, minus like the Communist Party, obviously is different, but Russia has been on a trajectory that we were supposed to be on.
Yeah.
Like we got thrown off because we weren't able to kick out our globalist regime as early as they were, and that's why I agree with you that Putin may not be the one in charge, like taking over. I think he's in charge, but because he had the, in my opinion, he had the most unilateral power out of the three of them to start. So he was able to kick everything off. And once you get the Russian side going, because Russia was the big bully coming at us, it wasn't China, because the Uniparty used Russia as the boogeyman and China as the partner that we should watch out for. And I just think it's fascinating that like the Russian people have been, I mean, take World War II, for example. We're taught that we won World War II single-handedly. And I think at one point I was told that Russia had switched sides in the middle of the war, which obviously is bullshit. But to learn, Russia has been fucked for the longest time. And to see them finally being able to like be free, it's interesting to me. I'm happy for them. And I don't look up to them because I still think America is the greatest country in the world. And we have been since day one. But it's cool to see that like it's possible, man.
You know, it's funny because when I started writing Righteous Russia, I still don't consider myself an expert on Russian, culture and all that. I just think I'm somebody who was exposed to very strange aspects of it in a very strange order that all clicked at the right time. Like I have said before, I specialized in Russian literature in university, which wasn't my plan, by the way. I was gonna specialize in English literature and British literature, and I hated it so much that I was just like, man, like I get it. There's some of these guys had some good shit, but there's a lot of garbage in here that just felt like it was just, you know, widely circulated, and that's why British literature has the sort of reputation it has in the West. Did I lose you? Are you frozen?
We can hear each other. Oh, we're back. We're back. I was gonna say we were both doing the spinning wheel of death. That's actually. I want to say one thing while you're saying that. You said that the British literature, a lot of it was shit. It reminds me so much of the not just the new alternative media, but mainstream media, new alternative media, all this stuff. When the Crown, so the Crown in this era is the intelligence community, whatever, in this realm. Or in this sphere, but the Crown back then, when the British like socialites were coming up and the writers and everything, they were pushing these people to the forefront because they were pushing their agenda. It's not because they were good writers, it's not because they were talented. It's the same reason why these people are getting paid $7,000 for a post. These people are coming and attacking John, attacking Badlands, all this stuff, because they're being pushed to the forefront because they're controlled. They can be controlled. And you got turned off. Like, you're one of those people that, say a person that's coming into the info war and they're listening to content and they're like, yes, I support Donald Trump, America first, MAGA. But these people sound like idiots. They're like, these people are asshats. Like, their writing sucks. Like, their content sucks. And then they choose, you know what? I don't want to go into British. Like, let me see what Russia's about.
Yeah.
I don't trust Russia, but let me see. And then you start reading Russian literature and you're just like, yo, these people are based.
Yeah, I was fascinated. I was fascinated by like what makes somebody write the way that they were writing. I think I was probably in some kind of general course and got exposed to some Russian literature, and then I was like, oh shit, this is a banger. And it was funny because it wasn't immediate. It was like I kind of read, you know, some Russian lit, and then I'm like, okay, that was interesting. And then I just would keep thinking about it, like for days and days and days after. Just like be eating lunch and just thinking about.
That's when you know it's good, man. That's when you know it's good.
Then I went all into it, and then just by happenstance, when I started fighting more seriously, it was kind of at the tail end of college when I tried to make an actual run, and I happened to start training with a bunch of Russians in Boston, and that was because I was transitioning from kickboxing to MMA. And I was like, well, I need to be able to get better with the ground game. And I knew at like 20 years old, I wasn't all of a sudden going to become a jiu-jitsu savant. Like, I knew enough of it to know what they were doing.
Right.
But I was like, well, I need to find like a cheat code against grapplers. And most Americans went into American wrestling, but I had no foundation in wrestling. So it was hard for me to compete with American wrestlers. Like, if they would get on my legs, they'd take me down. And I was like, I'm too old, even at 20. I'm like, I'm too old to get amazing at wrestling. So I was like, well, what style is a perfect hybrid? And it was the Russian Sambo. I'm like, these guys are really, really good at staying on their feet and not getting taken down because they know all these throws and everything. Found this Russian school. I've told that story before. So it's like Russian literature was in my head. Then I actually meet and train with a bunch of Russians. They were Dagestanis too. So that was like its own rabbit hole into that area. So they were Dagestani Muslims being trained by an Orthodox Christian Russian Spetsnaz. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, at the time, you know, you think like that 2010 to 14 era, you're like, none of this, or actually it was even earlier. It was like 2008 to 12. You're like, none of this fits. How are any of these ideologies like not only all training together, but they're like super aligned in their worldview? And it's devout Muslims and a devout Orthodox Russian who fought against Al Qaeda in the 90s.
Oh shit!
And like all his students were Dagestanis. So I'm sitting there being like, what about the Chechen wars? Like, I heard about all this shit. You guys were killing each other. Like, well, we were. But sit down. Like, that was really the CIA that was making us do all that. So,
oh man,
so they kind of rush appealed me early on. But yeah, when I started writing that, you start going down rabbit holes, and that was my whole intent of the series, was like, I'm going down this rabbit hole, and you can follow me down here, and like, I don't know what I'm gonna find. But the more I look back on it, it's not that I think of them as more than the Americans or anything. It's that I think that, to your point, they're further ahead of us, I think, on the sovereign awakening. I think they're further ahead. But that's no knock on Americans. I think they're only further ahead because they fell so much further down.
Yeah.
Because of the communist subversion that they dealt with. Like, imagine this 2008 to 16 era that we both talked about at the beginning of the show stretched over 80 years.
Yeah.
And like, look at how many America First sovereign-minded people that 8 years has created. It's created this, like, we're former liberals talking to a mostly conservative audience, and we're all aligned in this sovereign mindset, this America First thing. Imagine 80 years of that subjugation. That's kind of where the Russians are at now, which is why when you try psyoping them, they're like, that's cute. We've seen all this stuff before.
They tried that on my great-grandparents. Nice try, bro.
Yeah. So I think that they're actually they're a cautionary tale, but I think they're also a very positive tale because it shows, hey, we might actually get to warp speed this and not have a Soviet occupation, Bolshevik occupation for 80 years in order to get out of this crap. Like, we can have an accelerated version of this to hopefully, which is kind of part of the point of the show, is this whole boomerang idea. You know, like this acceleration mindset that we talk about a lot at Badlands. But I want to ask you about that because, you know, we've both been... I actually was listening to Onlylands, I think, last week, and you were talking about boomerangs, which is why it stuck in my head when I was going to have you on the show. But what do you think of in terms of what's the point? How do you conceptualize a boomerang in the context of the info war?
Okay.
And, you know, what do you think? How do you think it's used? How do you think it's used by Trump? Do you think it's intentionally deployed? Do you think these things happen sort of by nature? Like, when you use that word, what are you thinking about?
All right, so I'm going to give people a picture. So imagine I'm out there, or you're out there, whoever, and you have a bunch of boomerangs. You have big ones, small ones, and we're in a mythical place, so they can go as far as we want to throw them. If I want to throw them around the world and back, they can do it. If I want to throw them out into bacon gay outer space, 5-10 years, whatever. So what happened was when Trump comes in, there are certain things that need to be addressed: the elections, the border, the law and order, corruption, all this stuff. And he just started throwing out boomerangs, man. I think there was a plan behind it, but he just, whenever it was convenient, he threw out another boomerang, whatever it was. And for me, the boomerang is when the time is right, and this is where the mythical thing comes in, he calls the boomerang back. Like, there's a moment where he can turn the boomerang back around, or they just naturally turn around because the culture, because it's really us. It's really what we do as a society. If we say we want Donald Trump to be president in 2028, Donald Trump's going to be president in 2028. We'll make sure that it happens because like Steve Bannon said, it's the will of the people. So I think boomerangs for me they're intentional in nature, but they're not like, we talk about full control, half control, whatever. There is no way in my mind that Donald Trump can throw out a boomerang and have it come back and land on a 5-year delta because that's what he wanted. I think there's setups along the way to where he can line it up within a day, a week, a month. He can drop the crumb and then let it like grow a little bit, or the seed, let it grow, and then it'll hit like a 2-year delta, or 2-year and 2-day delta, or time delta, whatever. Like, and I know I went into Q with that, but for me, boomerangs are the what future proofs past. The boomerang is the future proofs past. The past that's being proven is that Donald Trump threw the boomerang, and the future is when it comes back. We don't know on what time it's coming back. We don't know when it's coming back, and we personally don't know why it's coming back. We can speculate, but that's what the boomerang is for me.
Well said, man. Yeah, I like that. It's because I think, you know, when you say boomerang, it's such a good, I mean, obviously it was in the Q drops. It's such a good and easy metaphor in some ways, but sort of in line with Hemingway. I like the way you frame that because I'm not comparing Cam to Hemingway. Strike that from the record.
Guys, I am no Hemingway. I am way less depressed and way worse at writing.
Yeah. All right. Good. I'm glad you know that because I almost paid you a really good compliment.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Yeah. Oh, I started paying you a compliment. That'll never happen again. But I like that. I like the way you frame that because the future past thing, I really like thinking of things in temporal senses. Our own Chris Paul obviously has his really interesting takes on informational time travel. And I think, this audience, we think of, and in the context of the drops, we think of boomerangs as like baiting almost, which maybe sometimes they are. Sometimes they're that simple of like, I'm going to toss this out there, knowing what the truth is. Trump and Patriots behind the Q drops. I think everyone would agree at a base level, they have an asymmetric information advantage, right? They know information that other people do not know. That's how, to your point about deltas, when deltas do hit exact, because I do think they do at times. Again, I say every show now, despite being branded as anti-Q, I am not. It's what prompted the Righteous Russia series and many other things I've done. But I think that some of the deltas that the Patriots have full control over are things that are emanating from them. If it's a communication that's a delta, they obviously have full control of that, right? If Dan Scavino hits on a tweet, he has control over whether or not he hits a tweet in 2025 that is referenced in the drops in 2017, which, as Chris Paul will often point out, by the way, I'm not saying this emphatically, but I am just saying the deltas are not inherent proofs that the drops are what the drops say. And I'm not saying that to be a jerk. I'm saying that to say this is the most read and engaged with information dissemination operation of all time. All players on the game board are aware of the Q drops, which means all players on the game board can hit deltas anytime they want to hit the deltas. That's the only reason sometimes people like me will say, chill out a little bit, because you understand that the other guys could hit deltas too, because they're reading the same drops, right? So I think that there are intentional deltas. I think that there are like nods that they're trying to give to anons and everything. I think that that's all true. But I like mainly the way you frame that as the boomerangs are these general understandings of we know what the truth is, and we are going to throw this deployment out there, like this narrative deployment out there, knowing that if we throw it hard enough, which I think is one of the kind of things about a boomerang, like the harder you throw it, the harder it's going to come back, which also parallels what we're talking about tonight with Trump's style of like, he doesn't toss boomerangs, he hurls them into the American mind, and he hurls them so hard that sometimes it seems like they're never going to come back. But when they do, like, they wreak havoc on the way out and on the way back in.
Yep. Yeah, man, Donald Trump, I was just thinking about this. So people in the audience know this, but not everybody knows that boomerangs are weapons. Like, they're not just toys for kids, they're weapons.
Yeah.
People use boomerangs as toys. Don't get me wrong. Go out, throw it with your kid, teach them the physics of it and everything. Donald Trump is using it like a savage in the wilderness of Australia, trying to destroy kangaroos, the bush people that are trying to eat him because they're cannibals, like literally all these crazy people. He's literally using them as weapons. So he's got to throw one out, and while he throws a short one to knock the guy out, the second one's coming back for his buddy that's coming behind him. And that's what he's doing. He's taking out all these different attack vectors from the other side. He's just taking them out one by one. And with the boomerang, the beautiful thing of a boomerang is you can hit somebody in the face with a boomerang. You could throw a boomerang, hit somebody in the face with another boomerang, punch him in the face, and then the third boomerang comes back and hits him. It's all about like timing and angles. And that's what Trump does with his deployments. He's always hitting the right timing and the right angle and the right amount of force behind it.
That's well said as well. I like that because it's this is why fighting is such a great first principles framework
really
to think about, not just to employ in metaphor, but to your point about boomerangs as a weapon. They also give Patriots this advantage where it's like they hurl the boomerang out in a narrative sense. The enemy apparatus has to account for where the boomerang is.
Oh, that's so. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, because you're
that's what you're.
Yeah, I said it and didn't even realize that I was making that point. Thank you for making my point.
Well, that's what you made me think of. Is I agree with what you're saying that it's a weapon and you can do other things while that's going on. And that made me think, well, part of the reason you can be so effective at doing other things while the boomerang is in the air is because the enemy is like, where the fuck is that boomerang?
Yep.
Right? Like, it's like the It's like the purple shell in
Yes.
Mario Kart. Like
I fucking hate that shell. Unless
somebody launches that and you're like, this fucking shell. And then you find yourself forgetting about it. For a second, you're like, I think it might be and then you get smashed. You take it right in the ass. If you forget where that shell is, it's you that it's going after. But yeah, man, that's one of the main things. And I think it puts the enemy at such an off-balance disadvantage because that boomerang is like hurtling around in the sky. You think of like, if they're at an asymmetric disadvantage, let's just go all in on metaphors tonight. If they're at an asymmetric disadvantage, they're in the dark, right? So there is a boomerang whistling through the air and echoing off the trees all around them. And they know that they always come back. Yeah, there you go.
That's the noise they're hearing.
That's the noise. That's the exact noise that John Brennan has been hearing for 8 years. Think about that as an example.
Yeah.
Hold on.
That's why he was poking that. That's why he was poking. That's why he was poking the guy that was on DPH last night.
Let's set the mood again. John Brennan is in bed and he wakes up with a cold sweat. Can't hear it. Did you mute yourself?
No.
What the heck?
Maybe it's
you
not
just had a perfect boomerang song, and then it went away. I mean, not song. There we go. Your mic is correcting it out.
It's like, what is wrong with this guy?
You did it the first time, and I think the mic is like, this guy's retarded. Like, this is not working. Yeah. So, but if you think about that from the enemy, it's why sometimes we frame the enemy as being in a horror movie, almost being stuck in a horror movie, because it's like John Brennan knows that Trump threw that boomerang out in 2016. Well, whatever it was, 2017 for him.
Right.
And he's probably had moments, especially during the Biden era, where he felt pretty good. He's like, I think it just fell out of the sky. And then like he'll hear one revolution. It's not working anymore. Your mic is just editing it all out.
Oh man.
But yeah, now they're and it makes me think too. 2025. One of the questions I wanted to pose to you on that note is this the year of the boomerang? A year of the boomerang? What defines a year of the boomerang? Because I believe that was the terminology in the drops directly. Let me
look that up while I'm thinking about it, because that's a good question. I will say, I don't think that this is the main year of the boomerang. That I'm almost positive of. I could consider this being one of the like medium distance thrown boomerangs this year, set of boomerangs. So maybe he threw out like, we'll say 10 to 12 boomerangs. He threw them. Most of these boomerangs were, again, all thrown out 2016, 2015, 2017. This is the medium-sized wave coming back right now. These aren't the first deployments to knock out the people in the front. This isn't the second one to get the people during the Biden era, because even those were thrown further, but they were more like attacks. These are the ones that were thrown out either during the Biden era and they're coming back now, or they were thrown out in 2017 and they're coming back now. But I think the coup de grace, this is my personal opinion, and I feel like it almost has to be this way, has to be next year. I think 250th anniversary, everything's lining up. 250th anniversary. Trump's going to have a full year under his belt. You're going to have there's already a whole bunch of illegals that have been removed. Our borders are secure. The lady even admitted that the borders are secure. Like, I never thought that the 60 Minutes would compliment Trump on shutting down the border. They had to. They had moved their Overton goalpost so far. That so far. By the way, I love when you came up with that term. I was watching the show live, and I was like, I fucking love it. Maybe that came up with it when you first said it, because I think you came up with it before, and you were like, I'm gonna drop this on here. It was during the bicameral drinking games and stuff, so I just remember it. But I was just like, that's perfect, because like it's a mixture of the moving the goalpost and Charlie Brown pulling the football. Like, they keep moving the goalpost, pulling the football, moving the goalpost, pulling the football. At that point, they had gotten more than 100 yards or 120 yards. And so, like, they're like, well, shit, we can't move it anymore. There's no more room in the stadium. You win. We'll move it back to where it's supposed to be at.
Yeah, exactly. That's that narrative retreat. That was the whole intention of that cipher, was the best ciphers are they're already ideas or frameworks that exist out there, right? It's not like I invented the Overton window or moving the goalposts, but I'm like, man, what if you combine those two things, right? It's like all inventions, just combine two other things that work, and it works. But out of curiosity, I just pulled up the drops. Shout out to Q Alerts, and probably can't see most of these, but kind of interesting. We won't read all these, but State of the Union, Boomerang. We got another.
Wait, hold on. Go back to the first one, because I just thought about this. So all these ones that say Boomerang, what if they're throwing it out at that moment? So maybe we don't know when it's coming back. So at the State of the Union attempts to send new articles to Senate today, and the Rockies. Oh, that's just okay. So whatever happened during that time period is probably a boomerang that was launched, or it's one that came back in.
Yep. This one, increase in attacks, only demonstrates validity in close proximity to justice. Boomerang. Interesting. Badlands has been getting a few attacks lately.
I know.
Interestingly, a few different posts say 2019, year of the boomerang. 2019, year of the boomerang, biggest scandal in American history. This one's about Mueller, FBI, special counsel. We got Boomerang suicide. We have government control. Future proves past. Year of the boomerang. We were right all along. We've got Boomerang suicide again. So we're obviously not going to figure this out, nor do I think it's something that can always be figured out. But I like your framing of thinking about things in terms of the start phase, right? Like the action. Because I do think that when we were engaging with the drops at the time, usually when you say the word boomerang, you're thinking of it coming back. That's what people think.
Yeah, of course.
But I do think it's interesting to say, okay, well, 2019 didn't feel like the year of the boomerang. But to your point, that's when they threw the boomerang out, right? And I like what you said also a little while ago, that I agree that, or I've come to believe that they don't always know exactly when it's coming back.
Yeah.
But I do think they have some control over that. Like, I think there's a bit of a middle ground. For example, let's look at the CIA, the FBI, John Brennan, stuff that's in the news in 2025 again. That feels like one of the big boomerangs of the year I'd written down. So Cam and I were kind of discussing, like, what are the big boomerangs that are kind of in the narrative in 2025? One of them, I think, is this whole Russiagate is back around. John Brennan, James Comey, Clapper. We've got all these characters from the Russiagate saga all back in the crosshairs of the narrative and supposedly of the DOJ.
Right.
That to me feels like maybe they didn't know in 2019 exactly when they were going to drop the hammer, but I think they know that they can drop the hammer whenever they want to. So it's almost a middle ground of what you're saying. Like, they didn't know when they're going to recall the boomerang when they throw it out, but I do think they can recall the boomerang.
Yeah.
When they want to on that, right? Because they control the DOJ now. Ostensibly, if they have this information on the Russiagate characters, then they literally have the power to call that boomerang back. And then the question becomes, what are they waiting for?
Yeah, I do. I was thinking about this while you were talking, and I hate to do this on your show, but 2019, this is going to be a John compliment. 2019, don't kick me off. 2019, the year of the boomerang. What if, two things. What if the boomerang was devolution? That's one that would fascinate me. But another one could be, what if they threw out boomerangs before they went into continuity of government? And the reason why the year of the boomerang didn't go and come back in the same year, it's because they had to change the plan. But the good thing with the boomerang is, because they didn't specify how hard they threw the boomerang or what it was exactly, they can just wait till it comes back and then line it up with the Delta. Or they didn't even have to line up with the Delta, but they just had to bring it back into the zeitgeist. And it plays into what you were saying. Like, there's some type of control. And when you get levers of power, you're not God, so you can't control everything. But the same mechanisms that the that the shadow governments use to control the world are the same mechanisms that if you take control of them, you can use to disseminate information at the speed that you want. Like Operation Warp Speed to me had almost nothing to do with vaccines and everything to do with the psyop of COVID, because COVID was a psyop first and foremost. And he did Operation Warp Speed to, in my opinion, to defeat that psyop before the country was lost forever, because people would have turned on each other, civil war, because fear would have permeated throughout the entire country, then spread to the rest of the world, which it had already done with COVID. So they had to speed it up for that. So I think that the boomerangs in 2019 may have been intended to come back a lot sooner, but because we had to have that little pause, as Trump always says, maybe they had to slowly bring some back, like one at a time, while Trump was out of office. Or maybe they came back even harder. Maybe the boomerang was some of this bullshit during 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023, because that was those boomerangs that hit us pretty hard on the MAGA side. It ended up hitting those people even harder, man. Like Joe Biden went from being able to like say, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black, to people being like, we need to get rid of him and put a black woman in. Like, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, on the Operation Warp Speed note, I completely agree. One of the ways I think about Operation Warp Speed, and my thinking has changed or evolved on it, I should say. I've always agreed that I never thought it was about the vaccines, although I think that was part of it. But I think it was about the vaccine narrative, to your point. The whole idea most in this audience are familiar with is the captain turned us into the path of the torpedo before it could arm itself. To me, that was a narrative torpedo, and I agree with you that you think, okay, well, what would the narrative matter? COVID was a narrative, and the narrative, it's one of the things I say, and I've said on the show, is for everyone in this audience who says that the scamdemic or the virus was fake, no, it wasn't, because the world shut down as if it was real. And a lot of you were personally affected. All of you were personally affected because it was real. It was a mind virus. And it's like, that's not cute to say. It had real effects. There was very little corporeal difference between a real pandemic and a fake story about a pandemic if they had the same effects. But when I say my thinking on the warp speed concept has evolved, I think of it like, again, going back to fighting, or, I'm sure in strategy and warfare, one of the things I learned kind of deeper into my run, because I had a decent run, and I had a streak where I had won 19 fights in a row at one point. But a lot of those were close. Like there was at the beginning there, it was like close fights back and forth. I just kind of kept eking them out. But then there was a run where I won like 9 straight that was just like gliding through. And I remember I had made a change in my approach based on some coaching that was a philosophical change of entering the ring. Because I was like, okay, there was always a paralysis of how do you plan for a fight? How do you strategize for a fight? Because things change, right? It's the age old, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? Yep. But that goes for your opponent too. And that's the aspect that people don't think about. So let's say you have a perfect plan and it works in the first minute. You're like, this guy leans over his jab. This guy telegraphs his cross. This guy crosses his feet when he switches stances, whatever it is. You know that information. You create a game plan to exploit that in the first minute. And it's working. And you crack the guy like 60 seconds in so hard that he enters panic mode. Guess what happens? His whole fighting style flips on a dime.
Yep. And then your plan's fucked.
Yeah. That's the part that I don't think people think about, including myself in the past, of where I used to go in here being like, I know how this guy fights. I know exactly what I'm going to do. And then I'd still come out of some of these fights that I was winning with a lot of damage. And just kind of, I remember getting with my coaches and being like, man, what is happening here? Like, why am I winning fights? And it seems like we had a good game plan, but I'm like getting my nose broken a million times and all this kind of shit. Yeah. And one of my coaches, who was like the most old school guy, he was a prison guard, was saying that. It's like, you hit somebody, you put them on defense, they're going to change their game plan, and you have to be able to adapt to that. All of which is to say, I think, and it's something that, you know, we run into maybe some friction at times with the full control people, which I no longer am, is I think of full control more like that. Like, you have to go into the fight or the situation with a philosophical approach, knowing how your enemy behaves when they are hurt, and accounting for how they might start to behave once they get hurt. And that's kind of how I think of Operation Warp Speed. Like, there was a Patriot plan. They had it. They knew what they were going to do. But part of it is they just accelerated everything to allow the enemy to enter their kind of death spiral, their death blossom, knowing they couldn't control all of it. And basically just letting them punch themselves out, letting them spin out until they came all the way back around with maybe like putting the plan back on track.
Yeah. I love that. And while you were talking again, like near the end, it sparked an idea in my mind. Operation Warp Speed. If he knows they're going to steal the election, if he knows that he has to leave this, if he knows he has to do continuity of government, why not speed everything up so they have to expand everything while you still have the powers, the levers of power? He basically made them use all their ammo while he was still president, and he could do something about it. So by the time they got to 2020 and they had already stolen the election and Joe Biden's in there and they have their regime, like the regime's running the way they want to run it. Well, not only did he take things away by guarding essential functions, but he also made them use all the things they were going to use in the first year just to get into office. They used all their ammo just to be able to have a narrative that would defeat him, because they needed all that just to steal the election without getting caught. If that makes sense, like to make the narrative like realistic, because they needed the mail-in voting. They needed the Trump was terrible at this. They needed Trump's killing people, you know? Yeah. And to that point too, it makes me think, you know, again, one of the things people don't really think about a lot, they use all these fighting terminologies like rope-a-dope, you know, from Muhammad Ali, or really George Foreman was a master at that. And then, punching themselves out, like people have kind of heard that. Most people have heard that terminology, and I think they kind of get it, like on a basic sense, like, oh well, you know, shell up, let them punch themselves out. Well, there's a reason not everybody does that. There's a reason that there's an art to doing that. Like, there's some guys who think they're going to let you punch yourself out, and they just shell up, and they get absolutely blitzed and destroyed, right? So that's why counter-striking is very difficult. You have to strike a balance, and I think that's what Trump and Operation Warp Speed kind of is, where it's like you have to strike this balance of not expending all of your ammunition, to your point, not expending all of your energy, but you can't let them knock you out while they're expending all their energy, right? Like, that's so true, there's these strategic, you'll see sometimes, if you look at really good counter-strikers, you'll see moments in slow motion where they're shelled up maybe against the cage or the ring, and they're getting hit by like a flurry, and they will respond in the middle of those flurries with like one punch that doesn't knock the guy out, but it staggers them and gets them back. And you have to do that as a counter striker. You have to hit back at times, because if you don't, like, you are going to get swarmed. So I think that's part of why it's taken way longer than a lot of people thought, is because, you know, we use all the cute terminology in this audience and in the Q drops of like Death Spiral and Death Blossom and Operation Warp Speed. And it's like, that's all true. But just because you know what the enemy is going to do doesn't always mean they're not going to beat you with it. Yeah. You know, like, it's kind of one of those like, hey, people knew what Tom Brady was going to do, like in games. And he did it. It's like, and I think there's some of that, you know, it's like, oh, well, they know everything the deep state's going to do. It's like, well, the deep state's really, really powerful, and they have a lot of energy to expend. It's actually a little different. It's Tom Brady knows what and Tom Brady, every once in a while, Tom Brady has lost a game. Tom Brady got injured, you know, Tom Brady lost Super Bowls, but Tom Brady, like Donald Trump, just because he doesn't know, just because he knows what they're going to do, doesn't mean that they're not going to rough him up a little bit. He's not going to get a hit to the jaw or whatever you want to say. But you want to know why Tom Brady and Donald Trump always end up winning in the end? When you look back on their careers, you don't don't visualize the 1 or 2 losses that came down. You see the 6 or 7 rings that they have, is because they have calculated the amount of, it's almost like a video game. They know how much damage is left on their bar. Like they only take a certain amount of damage. They take a certain amount of damage in those games where, like, if you move back, I think Tekken's one of them, a bunch of them are like that, where if you move back, you get some energy back. That's what Trump does, man. He knows not to stay in the pocket for too long. Like, you need to create space. Like you said, you have to punch once or twice, because in fighting, in life in general, the goal is to always create space between you and your opponent, unless you're going in for the kill to take them out, but you want space so they can't attack you. So that one punch every once in a while is the best way to continue the rope a dope, or to make them punch themselves out. You don't just stand there and just take the hits. You're going to get bruised up, and you'll lose decisions in a fight. Like, you can't just stand there and just take hits and be like, oh, he didn't knock me out. Yeah, you didn't punch either.
You'll run out of time. Exactly. Yep. That's hey, Cam's the one who brought up fighting tonight, guys. If you're getting a fighting episode, it is what it is. But my coach's coach, who was full of these little pearls of wisdom, his name was Otto. He quizzed us one time on the fight team, like, what are the 2 attributes that if you could have the ultimate 2 attributes, like maxed out, if you're in a video game, what would they be? And you know it's probably a trick question, but they're answering, and people are like, strength, power, speed. Speed, a lot of people said, including myself. My name in fighting was Flash. I had it on my shorts and everything.
That's awesome.
But that's what the fight team called me, because I was a quick little fella. But
it's because you're Irish, bro. It's because you're Irish. No, I'm not even kidding. If there's one group of white people that are the closest to black people, it's Irish people.
I've always said that. I said on a recent show, I said, I say a lot of stuff about black people, but I'll be the first person to say that Irish people are the black people of white people.
Oh, absolutely, man. I've never, I don't think I've ever lost a race to a white person that wasn't Irish.
Oh, yeah.
But I've lost to Irish kids before, man.
I've been beat in races by black kids, but I have also beat black kids in races.
Yeah.
Not anymore. My knee is jacked. But anyway, but yeah, that was my proudest moment. I had a track meet where I came in 3rd. It was like, I don't think it was states, but it was like a big track meet. But I was so happy, and they were like, why are you so happy? Like, you came in 2nd in the last one, or you came in 1st a few times ago. I'm like, because the guy who was in 4th was black. It's just like,
yeah, man.
I was so happy.
And his buddies were like, come on.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, man. And he's like, that white boy was fast, though. He was fast, though.
I ran like he was going to take my lunch money.
He should have started out ahead of you. If he was behind you, you're going to obviously outrun him.
Yep. But my coach said, he was like, there is an objective answer to this 2 attribute question. You just mentioned one of them. He said, if you have full control over distance and timing, you can't lose a fight. And then he was like, debate me on that. Think about it for a half an hour. Literally, he was like, go sit over there and think about it for a half an hour, and then beat me in an argument with any 2 other attributes, barring invincibility, right?
Yeah.
Like real world
magic.
Yeah. He was like, let's say you're the fastest fighter in the world, or the strongest fighter in the world, or the whatever fighter in the world. If you have perfect distance and perfect timing, you can't be beaten, because you could be slower than your opponent, but if you have the right timing, it doesn't matter that you're slower, because you hit him at the right time. If you have the proper distance, to your point, you don't get hit at the wrong time. And it's like, so simple. But when you apply that first principle to even the political world in these massive psychological operations, I think that going back to the drops and going back to what we talked about with Operation Warp Speed, I think of distance and timing when I think of that. Like and the drops even mention distance and timing. It's not just about intercepting things and like counter punching. It's about having control over your distance and your timing. And if you have control, because you can't ultimately, despite what some people think, you can't have full control over what the enemy does. You just can't, by definition. But you can have full control over what you do. And if you have perfect control over your deployments, it puts them in a really disadvantageous position in any kind of battle, whether it's psychological or physical.
Yeah, before we get back into Trump and everything, I'll just leave this with people, and I think that it's going to resonate with them. That would be the argument for me, for Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ had the perfect timing and the perfect distance from his opponents. He was able to withstand everything leading up into his crucifixion, and during his crucifixion, he wanted to be there in that moment. He didn't run from it because that was where he was supposed to be. How do you live a perfect life? With perfect timing and perfect distance.
Damn straight, man.
We can't be perfect, but we can be damn sure close to perfect when it's as a collective. And I think that's Donald Trump's like best attribute, and not just him. Obviously, it's a team behind him. We're the main people behind him, but there's obviously people in the quote unquote shadows or in the dark or whatever that are allowing him to be able to do the will of the American people. So, real quick, go ahead if you had something to say.
No, go ahead.
So I was gonna say, if you want to get back into the 60 minutes thing, I had one more thing I wanted to share.
Go for it.
All right, perfect. It's actually still down.
See, this conversation is we threw a bunch of boomerangs out in the first segment, and we don't know when they're coming back, but they are coming back.
This one's a good one too because it ties into weapons. You can pull it up. It's at the bottom still. I thought I didn't have it saved. There you go. Let me make sure it's right timing. So this one should be on testing nuclear weapons and denuclearization and stuff.
Of war to start testing our nuclear weapons immediately. What did you mean?
Well, we have more nuclear weapons than any other country. I think we should do something about denuclearization. And I did actually discuss that with both President Putin and President Xi. We have enough nuclear weapons to blow up the world 150 times. Russia has a lot of nuclear weapons, and China will have a lot. They have some. They have quite a bit. But
so why do we need to test our nuclear weapons?
Well, because you have to see how they work. You do have to. And the reason I'm saying testing is because Russia announced that they were going to be doing a test. If you notice, North Korea is testing constantly. Other countries are testing. We're the only country that doesn't test, and I don't want to be the only country that doesn't test.
Are you saying
hold on.
that after more than 30 years, the United States is going to start detonating nuclear weapons?
I'm saying that we're going to test nuclear weapons like other countries do, yes.
But the only country that's testing nuclear weapons is North Korea. China and Russia are not.
No. Oh, no. This she starts telling the president what his intel should be. Well, but I'm actually cutting her off the screen now because actually, no. I'm going to go back to no, I don't have to go back to it. I'll just tell you guys. So the thing that really sparked my interest was he says I wrote it down. So he talks about testing nuclear weapons, and he said, I wrote this down. I believe when he says denuclearization and testing, he's signaling to the world that we are going to denuke, quote unquote, because I think nukes are fake and gay. And the whole thing of they're doing it, so we're doing it is to kind of get over. But this is all narrative, guys. But denuke by using all the ones we have in this world, and nobody builds another. So if everyone starts testing nukes, test all your nukes, then no one has any nukes left. Then we don't have to. Did you hear my voice? He heard a black man. And he was like, "Oh shit! Oh shit!"
He tries to sometimes lead me out of the office. Like he comes in, he scratches the door. Well, he can open the door, so he opened the door, comes in, stands, and then is like, "Let's go," because he's a shepherd, so he's trying to herd me. And I was like, "I'm not going, man." So now he's dropped it because I said, "You're
the worst sheep, man." He should know. He should know by now that you're not a sheeple. You're not a sheep.
They'll stand and point. He's like, "Come on, follow me. We got to go to bed." Man. I'm like, I don't go to bed at this time.
Dude,
anyway,
dogs are fascinating. No, that's perfect because he's doing what Donald Trump's doing. He's signal pointing. He's like, I'm not going to tell you everything, but I'm signal pointing. But no, I genuinely believe, like when I heard that, it just clicked in my head. The reason Donald Trump is doing all this is because, like Kick Dreaming says, nukes are fake and gay. He's trying to get the narrative of nukes gone forever. His denuclearization is, I'm trying to get that stupid threat of nukes, that blackmail of nukes, out of the world forever. He already did it with North Korea. Now they're bringing it back up. That's another boomerang. They're saying North Korea is doing it. He's like, no. We're not talking about North Korea because he knows North Korea is not going to do shit. So he says the only people that could do something, whatever their version of nuke is, are Russia, China, and maybe Iran. I think he said something about Iran a little bit later. But like, and by the way, he leaves out Israel. But I also don't think that they have nukes personally. I think that they're the one thing that they have, I think is I think my personal opinion is their Samson option is burning every single world leader and politician and famous person with all the blackmail they have. That's what I think nukes are. I think Chris may have said it. One of the first people, you or Chris, or somebody said you thought it might have been that. But like, I'm 100% convinced that. Oh, 99.9% because I don't know the facts. But like, I know nukes aren't real. I'll tell you that much. But I don't know what they are.
I don't know who was first. I mean, but both Chris and I were saying the denuclearization narrative, and I wrote a tongue-in-cheek article about this at the time. This was in July on the N-word because I find it hilarious.
I remember this one. Oh, I loved that one.
I also find it hilarious that Trump uses that, and he like waits every time he says it.
The N-word.
He's like the N-word, and then he like leans forward and he's like nuclear. Like he waits to see if they'll take the bait. But yeah, I not only do I think that denuclearization is narrative, entirely narrative, but I also think that denuclearization is renuclearization. And in the midst of all of this denuclearization rhetoric, because that was one of the things I wrote down about the 60 Minutes interview as well, was that segment, is in the midst of the denuclearization, the US, Russia, China, and really all of the world is pivoting hard back into nuclear energy because that's
shout out
energy.
Tesla.
Yep, that's the energy we never should have got off. And you can get into 0-point energy and all these things that might come in the future. But for now, nuclear energy is, really that's going to be a massive. Hold on, I'm just pulling.
It's all good.
Jeez, I'm spurging out. That's going to be that. It's funny. This is my favorite article I actually ever wrote. It's like it's fairly popular, but it's just
on the
for
N-word?
some reason. No, this one, Amerigeddon, I wrote in 2024, and this was all about basically the story. If people are wondering, if anyone wants to read any of that stuff, go to burningbright.substack.com. Just search for it. But that one I like, and I think will stand the test of time because I think when we say denuclearization is narrative, people can wonder why. Like, why? If nukes are fake, as described to us, let's put that caveat there. Yeah. As they have been described to us, I believe nuclear weapons are fake. Same. Do nuclear payloads exist? I think so. Do nuclear delivery devices exist? Yes. Do nuclear submarines exist? Yes. Does nuclear energy exist? Yes. All these things exist. I don't think an atomic bomb, as we were told about it, exists. Yeah. I think that that's a narrative. Now, you can think that that's crazy or not, but a few of us think that way. But as we mentioned in the COVID segment, you can think that the virus was fake while also understanding that the story about that virus visited massive impacts on the world. And that's why I wrote Amerigeddon. It was fissions and fusions of nuclear nightmares and American dreams. And my whole idea when I went down this rabbit hole was to say, when did the nuclear nightmare narrative really take hold? And it was Hiroshima, right? It was it was in the 40s. Before then, before the World War and following the World War for about a decade, we had American optimism, specifically after the World War, despite the nuclear bomb, that was largely built off of the nuclear narrative. It was this whole idea under Eisenhower of like, okay, we've seen the scary shit about nuclear energy, but here's all the good stuff. I mean, we literally, in that article, I go through the story, the etymology and the meaning behind the word nuclear, not on a literal level, but on a connotation level. How do people feel when they hear the word nuclear?
Yeah.
Even in the 50s, even though it was on the back of Hiroshima and on the back of the Manhattan Project, nuclear meant the nuclear family. Yeah. Like when you thought nuclear, you think of the Monopoly game board and the white picket fence and a dad, a mom, and Art Deco furniture. Like that was nuclear. The Great Gatsby was back in the 20s. It's like nuclear, this new thing.
Leave it to Beaver. Leave it to Beaver is what I think of when I think of nuclear.
Yeah, you think of Pleasantville, like you think of all this kind of shit, right? And part of the whole concept behind that Amerigeddon article was actually, ironically, going back to the 4chan thing I mentioned earlier tonight. This is what they stole from you has been like living rent-free in my head for 20 years, ever since I saw it on 4chan. And I've always thought about it in the context of nuclear energy, of being like, if you look at retrofuturism, it's both fascinating and dark, because retrofuturism shows you, and there's actually retro-afrofuturism in the 70s, which is kind of like the black version of futurism, which was kind of interesting. But both of those things show you what people in the 50s assumed the future was going to look like based on the trajectory that they were on, which shows you why we had to have things like 3 Mile Island. And then like every 10 years, you've got one of these meltdown scenarios. Hiroshima wasn't enough. Eisenhower managed to reprogram the American people, or deprogram them, and say like, yeah, there's some bad shit about nuclear energy, but look at the limitless potential that it could give us. That's why you had stuff like the Jetsons coming out. People were like, we're going to have like Tesla shit everywhere. It's going to be awesome. All this optimism was all built around nuclear energy and nuclear futurism. And that's why they had to go into 3 Mile Island. They had to go into Fukushima. There's a million other ones. Chernobyl. But like every 10 years, if you look, each decade had this massive crisis point, all built around nuclear energy. Of course, these days, you can just watch some YouTubers walk around the radiated zone of Chernobyl, and they don't melt, and it turns out all of that shit's fake. So, like, I don't know what to tell people who don't believe that. Like, you can get a fucking camera and go walk around in Chernobyl, and you'll be fine, despite what they said about all these different narratives. Fukushima's fine. It's a thriving city in Japan right now. Hiroshima's fine. So, none of it makes any sense. None of the story holds up to scrutiny. And if you're looking for the reason of why do we have to denuclearize the narrative, it's because Trump, Putin, and Xi are trying to push us into a nuclear world. And in order to do that, you have to, as you said, denuclearize, or at least tell the story that you're denuclearizing.
Yeah, I think it's going to be, this is my best speculation, is we're going to see a bunch of testing. You're going to see bombs being dropped places. You're going to see videos of stuff. Honestly, I bet most of these videos are going to be fake. There'll probably be like one or two where they drop like a really big bomb, or whatever the biggest bomb we have that we've seen actually land. They'll drop a couple of those, maybe one in the ocean, so that it like looks real scary because it's not near anyone, but the damage could be immense. Look at the waves. And then the next thing we're going to see is a pivot. Maybe that's the boomerang time, 2026, maybe around the 4th of July. Trump's like, by the way, we've been in the works in not in secret, but like behind the scenes, we've been building infrastructure to be able to use nuclear in our cities. Because I believe recently they said something about using nuclear on all military bases. I think they might have even talked about on SITREP or something, or maybe one of your shows. But yeah, like that to me is signal. The military gets everything first. They get the GPS. They got GPS before us. They got the internet before us. They got all these different things. So I would not be surprised if that the nuclearization of our military, or renuclearization, as you would say. So like basically transferring it from attack nuclear to development nuclear.
Yes. Exactly, and this was one of the stories that I was talking about last week. Army to power U.S. bases with micronuclear reactors.
Yeah, that was definitely you, because I remember you reading it.
And by the way, our own General Quast, who we will see in Florida, has been telling Badlanders about micronuclear reactors for 3 years, long before they were in the public. So I don't.
Now he knows how you feel. Now he knows how you feel. You've been saying it for 3 years.
He blew up his spot a little bit there. But he's been talking about that, and he's got some really interesting stuff to say about where we're heading in that direction. But I think that's like the buried lead. I really, despite how dramatic the tit for tat between Russia and China and the US is, and the war, even the war against the deep state, all that little stuff, like the narrative I'm the most interested and obsessed with is this renuclearization thing, because, you know, as people might be like, that's not as sexy or dramatic as these other like World War III narratives. It's like, okay, but two things. One, those other narratives are fake.
Yep.
2, the reason they are leaning so far into those fake narratives is to get us to that other narrative, which is the actual of renuclearization, right? So like, if you know where we're going, and if you know that Trump and Xi and Putin are trying to get us there, I like thinking about that like more than all of this stuff, because all of the stuff in the middle is just how we're getting there. And I find it interesting to track how they're untangling all these narratives, but I find it really tiring when I see a lot of media figures and like anons like decoding how Trump is avoiding World War III, when it's like you're still operating from the premise that this is possible. Like you're still operating from the premise that, and I know people can think, oh, that's your opinion, that like we're never going to have this. Okay, fine, that's fair. But they are telling you themselves, in between all of their escalation narratives, that they are literally developing, when I say they, I mean the US, Russia, and China, are developing massive joint economic projects. If you think there's any chance they're going to war in the middle of that, like you just are not watching the same thing. You're not, they're telling you. And I actually think that one of the guys that gives little hints of this, see if I have the headline. No, I don't have it. I don't have it very ready, but Dmitry Medvedev is like the saber rattler in Russia, who's always like, we're gonna bomb him, and then Trump's like, well, he shouldn't have said that. If he bombs us, we'll bomb him. And then you get Lavrov being like, it's fine, everybody's fine, chill out.
Yeah.
What Medvedev said 2 weeks ago, the U.S. Remember when Trump was like, we're repositioning nuclear submarines off the coast of Russia.
Yep.
And if you actually look into that, those were planned maneuvers that they already were going to do. And they notified Russia publicly that they were going to do it, right? But people were like, Trump is saber rattling. He's going to attack Russia. He's posturing. And it's like, when you're moving nuclear submarines to attack another superpower, you don't tell them where you're going to put them. And Medvedev said in response to that, the U.S. nuclear arsenal, the U.S. military is a black cat in a dark room. And everybody took that as he's escalating and he's saying the U.S. military is weak and it's like it's not even there. What? I think he was saying this is nothing. There is no nuclear submarine off the coast of Russia. The U.S. is a black cat in a dark room. It doesn't exist. And it's his way. And I think these guys are in a text group just cracking up.
Dude, when you first said that, I was like, this has got to be happening.
They're like, bro. They're like, I literally told the Russians and the Americans that this doesn't exist and isn't real and is no threat to the Russians. And the American media is like, did you see how Medvedev said we're weak and he wants to blow us up? Like, it's just, I don't know. I sometimes I think they're getting like more overt as a way of being like, guys, there's only so much we can say about this.
Yeah, I think you're right about that too. And I wanna piggyback and add on to what you were saying, Lavrov was saying, because I didn't take it as the way you said it at first with the black cat in the room, like not being there. But that's actually a good, like, it's almost like I forgot the guy's, it's like Plato's cave or somebody's cave, whatever. But like for me, it's if it's a dark room and there's a black cat in there, I don't know if the black cat's there or not. I can't see the black cat. If it's a dark room, I mean, for me, it's a little different because I'm black. But if it's a dark room, I'm probably not in the room. Like, people don't think about that. If it's a dark room, why would I be in a dark room? But like, there's just so much to it where he's basically just like, I'm throwing out here this thing that sounds like it's real. It's like those people you're talking about, those writers. Like, he's saying all this fancy stuff when he's really just saying like, guys, nothing's happening. Like, I literally didn't write anything right here.
Yeah, and that's obviously that's my interpretation of what he's saying. Other people can say he's saying it's a black cat in a dark room because he's saying like it doesn't matter. It's powerless. It's this thing that's invisible but is ultimately no danger. And I would say like, well, cats are kind of dangerous. But besides that, people in the military took it that way.
Right.
But that's why, again, take that statement and juxtapose it against, what was it, last week that we had the latest talks of a new Bering Strait project, and none of these things are signed yet, but like they're both sides are talking about this. It's like, guys, I promise you that like the three most powerful guys in Russia are not threatening Donald Trump with nuclear weapons while their finance ministers are talking about the biggest joint economic projects in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Like, it's just logical that that is not happening. And if you can't get on board with that, then I do think of the drops. The choice to know, I think, is talking about that. I don't think it's the choice to know. I don't think the choice to know means we told you everything in the Q drops and you either read the Q drops or you didn't. I think the choice to know is you either are still falling for every psyop that comes at you, more so maybe than you were before you read the drops, or you understand that we're going to a certain place, and in order to get to that certain place, you have to discard all of the stuff that you thought you knew about the game board.
Yeah, two things. One, I want to ask you a question about what you just said, but I feel like everything that Donald Trump does with China and Russia that seems like they're bickering, they're fighting, is all done like in the European theater and then like the west part of Asia. And then all the business stuff is going the other side of the, if you believe the world is a globe or round, whatever, it's going the opposite way. Like I think John asked a question or something on one of the live streams a while back. I think it was July 15th when they went to Alaska to have the meeting. He's like, why do you think they picked Alaska? And I said, I think signal. Like the thing is, we're going to start doing economic stuff, because he had already said it, but also like, if you have the meeting over there, Canada is literally the only country within like a day flight that could do anything about it. And Canada's not even a real fucking country anyway. So like, if you want to do business, let's go to Guam. Let's go to South Korea. Let's go to, you know what I mean? Like, Donald Trump is probably not flying over Europe to go to these places. He's flying to Russia. Well, I mean, Russia may be different, but like when he's going to China, or not China, Korea and stuff, they're going to the West Coast. They're going that direction. So like you're bypassing so much of the stronghold of Europe. That's something that I always factor in. It's like at any moment they could try to take him out. So like little things like that. I'm not saying that that's the threat or anything, but the question I wanted to ask you is, do you think the psyops are getting more overt, or are we just getting more aware of them?
I think about that often. Yeah, I think about that often.
Your words sparked that question, so it's probably your fault. You were projected it onto my mind.
I think it probably is both, is the cop-out.
I don't think it's a cop-out, and people knock you all the time. They call you Switzerland. And from the day I started watching Badlands, the reason I would always have, like, in my mind, I had your back over John's, was because I was like, people said that to me all the time, and my reasoning is the same as you. If I don't know the actual, then why am I picking a side? To me, that's ignorance. Like, why am I saying I think it's this, it's going to be this? If I don't have enough information, I'm just blindly guessing. And if I'm going to blindly guess, I'm going to blindly guess on both sides and give my reasons for it, because I'm not picking a side until I have some type of truth that I can like hold on to tangibly.
I fully agree that John is completely ignorant and is a total idiot. I'm trying to find...
John, I didn't say that. I didn't say it.
Man, I'm trying to find a thing I've pulled up a million times, and I can't. Hold on. Let me find
it's all
this.
Good.
It's actually worth... Where the heck is it?
It's worth it. Yeah, so the reason I was bringing up the different directions, it's not necessarily like the Trump's life or anything like that. I think that he's protected at this point. I think the closest they were ever going to get was the ear. After that happened, I don't think there's any chance. Knock on wood, or pray to God more than anything, but knock on wood as well. But I do believe that just bypassing Europe, man, like that's the filth. And when I say Europe, I don't mean like just Europe. I mean like you got Israel, you got Iran as a proxy state, you've got some other places. But like that area is just a cesspool, man. And it has been. That's the reason we left 249 years ago, was because that was a piece of shit area. Like, think about what they've done to your people. Well, think about what they've done to your people. Think about what they've done. When I say your people, I mean your ancestors. Think what they've done to like Chris and Brad and CanCon's ancestors, the Italians.
Well, those are just
think
Italians,
yeah. Well, you would say that, but from my perspective, like the same thing they did to Africa, they've done to Europe. The same thing they did to Europe, they've done to Asia. The same thing they've done to Asia, they've tried to do to America. Like they've done it to North America and South America, but the US was the last place they tried to get to. And we're just like, no, fuck that. And Russia's like, we've been waiting for you guys to get somebody in power because we've needed an ally. And China's like, oh, we're not asshole no more. We want to help too. So
I do agree. It's a good point about the Bering Strait in that area. Hemispheric defense is a term that's being used a lot in military circles. Yeah. And I think that Europe right now is toothless and is retarded and infantile. So it doesn't mean that I think that, we would need to hide our joint economic projects from them and make sure they're not in the Atlantic or something like that.
Right.
Of course, it makes sense for joint economic projects with Russia and China to be in the Pacific and the Arctic. Like regionally, geographically, it makes sense. But I do agree that, let's say we're 40 years out, way beyond the Trump administration. Maybe Europe has been rebuilt and, they've gained strength again. And one of the side effects of entering this era of multipolarity and true sovereignty that Trump, Putin, and Xi talk about is you will have in the decades ahead, other powerful nations begin to rise in that environment. And, that's good, but it's also, there's a realism that we have to apply to that, which is like, hey, maybe France in 2042 is actually pretty powerful compared to what they were, they're kind of a laughingstock right now in 2025.
Yeah.
20 years from now, that could be a different thing. 40 years from now, and who gets in there? Who's in power? What's the national situation like? So I agree with you. I would also say that from that hemispheric defense perspective, if you think about, well, who's over there? It's the U.S., as you said, Canada, which doesn't matter. Russia, China, Korea are all there.
Yep.
And then Japan is there. And there's a reason, to further your point, that Trump has really focused on getting Japan in line with his direction. Because if you think about where Japan is on the map, literally, if anybody was going to fuck up joint economic projects or relations between Russia, China, and the U.S., they are right in the middle to do it. And they have the ingenuity to do it. They've done it in the past. They have the spirit to do it. That was one of the original Axis powers. And again, I think we've been lied to about a lot of that stuff. I just mean in pure power projection capabilities, if Japan is on the wrong side, they can be a huge disruptor. And if they're acting as Europe's proxy, and then the other proxy of Europe there, or some would say, a vassal state of Europe, it's Australia. So there's a reason that Trump just stopped over in Cambodia and Thailand and in Southeast Asia, and he's getting them on board, right? He is making sure that it's not just the US, Russia, and China. It's all this satellite chain in Southeast Asia. You can't have Singapore grow into this major financial hub and then the Philippines start to build up a military and then Australia as the European hub behind them, because that could turn into a superpower if you're not careful. And if they do turn into a superpower, you want them on the right side.
Exactly. Yeah, I played the game of Risk before. I don't really remember how it goes, but I feel like in my head, everybody bear with me, it's like a team game of Risk right now. So it's like you have Russia, China, and the US on one team. You have the European vassals, deep state on the other side. And then there's proxy states. Well, we've teamed up with Russia and China, whoever's the other person playing on that team. And we're like, all right, we have an alliance that we've formed, whether it's secret or not. We need to collect as many important pieces or countries so that we don't have to surround Europe to attack them. We need to set up a defense so that if they start acting up, they don't screw up our plans. Because I know they care about Europe. I know the whole world matters. But like, if Europe's gonna fuck itself over, like, as long as we can keep them out of our business, that's on them, man. That's not, it's like America first. Like, if we lock up our border, like, I want the Mexican people to be good. I want the Canadian people to be good. But if you want to choose that government and you're not going to fight for your own freedom, like, good luck, man. Like, we got our own shit to deal with.
Damn straight. Well, I want to start rounding into form as we start to get into our first topic. Now, we got Q After Dark coming in 15 minutes after us. I'll try not to stumble all over them. I'll obviously have you back on the show, but we'll hit on a couple quicker things before you get out of here. If everybody wants to send any rants over or anything, we'll grab that before we get out of here. But I wanted to respond to what you said about our observation abilities versus are the comms getting more overt? I actually don't know if I've shown this on a show. I've shown the Fichtean curve before, but this is my favorite chart I ever saw as a writer. It's called the skill and observation.
It's like Donald Trump's favorite chart, the chart that saved his life.
This chart saved my life.
I love this chart.
So I love this from the perspective of a writer, a fighter, a guitar player, whatever you want to say. So you kind of got to think about this one.
Sorry, real quick. You described this.
I've described it.
You've never shown it.
Yeah. So I can't find it online, but I have it on my hard drive. So okay, this is the way this works. The whatever this is, the green line or whatever. What colors are these? That's a green one or turquoise, and then the one that starts the bottom is a red one. But we'll say the y-axis one and the x-axis. So the x one is the red one, the y one is the blue one. All right. I don't want to confuse people. So we've got red here, and this is artistic skills, or just think of it as skill, and then observation. So you got to think of these things as focused on a specific thing. Okay. So let's think about guitar playing.
Perfect.
The red is the ability to play the guitar. Objectively, if you were to put it on a chart, how good are you at playing the guitar? The blue is how good are you at recognizing good guitar playing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep.
So, and what it's telling you is that, let's say you just started guitar lessons. Well, you are right down here in terms of skill, right? You suck at playing guitar. But by being somebody ostensibly who's interested in playing guitar, your observation skills of guitar is probably up here. Like, you're no expert in observing guitar, but you know what a good guitar sounds like. You know what a good song sounds like, and you can't do it. So this means you feel like shit. If you're down here, but your observation abilities are here, you feel like crap. Because if your skill is below your observation, you will feel shitty. Then you start taking lessons, right? You learn to play a song. Your skill goes to here. So you're like, not only are you objectively better, you're at a 2 out of 10 in skill, but your observation abilities lack. They're on a lag.
Yeah.
So you have learned to play a song, but you haven't really learned anything new and fundamental about guitar playing. And what happens is your skill reaches a plateau. The reason your skill reaches a plateau is because you don't know what you're not good at, and you don't know what you're not good at because you don't have the observation skills to understand what you're not good at. So then what do? You start observing better guitar players. Now that you know a little bit more, your observation abilities can level up. And what happens is your observation abilities level up and cross past your skill gap. This is the skill gap. Then you feel like shit again. So when you're right here, you're objectively 3 times better at playing guitar than right here, or twice as good. But you feel worse because now you can observe better guitar playing. All of which is to say, I think people should think about this chart all the time in all their endeavors.
I'm gonna have to now.
It's both motivating and encouraging. And it can help you when you feel really discouraged. The irony is, if you're trying to do something and you feel like you're bad at it, the white pill way of looking at that is that means your observational abilities in that skill have evolved.
Yep.
Because now you know you're not as good as you think you could get. And as soon as you feel really, really good at something, the other way of making sure you don't get high on your own supply is that should let you know that you have crossed over your skill gap, which means that you can get better. And you need to learn how to do that, right? So all of which is to say, that is how I think of the info war Like, I think that we have gotten a lot better at observing this kind of stuff, but I also think that they are being a little bit more overt. They're putting more out there. It's almost like they're rewarding the skill. But for people that haven't started that journey, it might all be skill and observation. It might just all be like, sometimes we hit weeks in the info war, even though we've been doing this stuff for years, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? And I think that's a moment where like Patriots or whoever is like, yeah, we're throwing some swerves at you. Like, bet you thought mass arrests were going to happen this week. We hit you with, well, think about it this way. If they wanted to fuck with us in a way that made us better at the info war, sometimes I bet you they hit deltas and then fuck with you and don't nail them and don't actualize them. Because what does that do? That's what G-Money would call a rug pull.
Yep.
It's like, we hit you with a delta that was a real delta, and guess how much it mattered? Not at all.
Yeah.
And I think there's some tough love going on where Patriots are saying, if all you are doing in 2025 is matching deltas, and you haven't read Scott Bessent's thesis, you don't understand what these joint economic projects are, you haven't looked into any of the histories Trump is talking about, you don't know the first fucking thing about Vladimir Putin's rise to power. Like, it doesn't have to be all those things, but if you aren't trying to figure this shit out in a direct path manner, you are fucking up.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest intel drop in history was not meant for you to match things, as Chris Paul would say. That's not what it was for, I don't think. And
no,
I don't know. That's how I would.
Yeah, I mean, if you drop something that intense, that like, I guess mimetic, but just that powerful, to me, that's a training, not even a training exercise. It's a playbook, not playbook, blueprint, playbook, whatever you want to call it, instruction manual. It's literally an instruction manual, and because it's all a psyop, good or bad, Q drops were a psyop.
Yes.
When you have something that is that intricate, that confusing, that specific, that open-ended, all this stuff, it is the perfect tool to train, because what it does is it gives you every possible scenario. That's what they did. They gave us every scenario so we wouldn't be surprised, and people still act surprised because they're just like, I didn't know this could happen. Well, what do you mean? Like, at this point, nothing should surprise you except for when people say nothing is happening. That's the only surprising thing, is when people say like, or if they say that our elections are fixed, or like we finally won, or you know what I mean? Like, that's the only thing that should be weird to you. Everything else is possible. It's all possible, because this is a crazy game, a crazy world. So much has been suppressed, so much knowledge has been kept from us, that when they show stuff to us, it's going to be like when the Indians first saw a ship coming from Europe, and they didn't even like. I don't know if it's an allegory or if it's real, but allegedly Indians they weren't able to see the ships until they got right up to the coast, because they didn't even know what they were looking at.
Right.
They had never seen a vessel like that, so to them, their brains couldn't even process what it was until it was close, and they could physically see a piece of wood, or a large piece of wood, or a ship.
Yeah, I've heard that. I don't know if it's it's in writings or it's an allegory or whatever, but yeah, the idea was like when they were far out on the horizon, they just saw them as clouds or something, because they were just like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
Yeah, and even if it's not literal that they couldn't see it like visibly, you don't know. When you don't know what something is, like the first time somebody saw an airplane, before like newspapers were not around saying stuff about the first planes out there, when they saw the Wright brothers flying in the air, they were just like, what the hell is that? Like, is that a missile? Is it the Russians? Is it the whatever, whoever the threat is at the time?
Yeah.
And then when they learn what a plane is, that's when they're like, oh, it's just an airplane.
Yeah. Usually the Russians, though. I like the attempt at an old-timey. I've been working on the old-timey. And one of my strange obsessions is, did people actually talk like that to each other? Or was it only on radio broadcasts, right? Like, did you get home from school and your dad was like, now listen here, son. You're going to sit down right over there, and I'm going to tell you a thing or two about a thing or two. And I don't want to hear any back talk, because this is how we talk around here, all right? We have a really strange inflection on everything we say, and it's totally normal. Everyone acts normal. Everyone acts like everyone on television talks like this. You see? So, I don't know if that starts when you're like 8 or 9.
Well, earlier, I think we were watching Bay Theater Dave's show, but he was playing one of those old-timey movies. And I said to Jackie, I was like, I kid you not, guys. We did not talk about this before the show, but I asked Jackie. I was like, "Do you think people really talk like that?" Or I was like, or do you think that's how recordings, like the way that the records were because of the grooves and stuff? Did it just sound like that because of the records? And then when they recorded it, like after that, but then I also thought the way our languages changed, like the Bostonians back in the day, the people that were throwing tea into the water, they probably sounded like poor British people,
right?
Like just like Southerners do now. Like most Southern accents are really just dialects of like former Old English. But part of me thinks that maybe there was a time period where like somebody on the radio started talking like that, like whoever
Just
the
one
first
guy.
big news, and then so all the men thought that was manly, and so then they started talking like that, and then their kids learned it. Because I mean that's how dialects happen.
There's one guy, if we're to be thankful that the World Series is over, there's a guy's voice I've been subjected to for years, knowing a strange preponderance of Canadians that flit in and out of my life. The Blue Jays broadcaster is this guy. What the hell is
Because
his
your
name?
wife.
Let
I
me
was like,
look him
why
up.
do you know? I was like, why do you know the Blue Jays broadcaster? I forgot
his
half of your
name?
family's Canadian now.
Buck Martinez, is that it?
Buck Martinez. Wow,
Buck
that's
Martinez.
some Canadian shit.
His voice is the most annoying thing you could ever fucking hear in your entire life. And I'm going to subject all of you to it.
Let's
but
piss him
it's
off before Brad, Alpha, and Josh
Yeah,
get on.
it's a real man that
Oh,
says...
God.
I want to say welcome back.
Thank you very much. It's great to be back. It's been far too long. I've been away from the ball club. It's good to be back.
How you feeling?
I feel good. I went through a lot of treatment, but
Oh, I feel bad. I picked a cancer video. Anyway, he's always like, "Thank you very much, Jamie, and we've got a full ballpark here today, so it's a nice one to bring the kids to. Nice day at the ballpark." But anyway, yeah. So apparently, baseball people. It's like a baseball accent.
Yeah. Bay Theater Dave did say in the chat. He said it's a style because obviously he's the old timey movie person.
Yeah. There's a modern version of that, which is the media, where they talk in that strange inflection, where they're like, it's not the same thing. Yeah, like tonight in Boston, there was a murder, and we're gonna go down to Laura. Laura, what can you tell us about the murder on South Street in Boston?
Hi,
thank you, John. Yeah, and it's like this weird
yelling.
lilting kind of thing. I swear, there's something like hypnotic about that. The reason that they probably do it.
I'm so glad you said that because, and this could be the last thing that I say, and then you can say whatever you want after that. It's your show, but that is 100% a thing. So I've been watching X-Files recently, and at the beginning of the series, they talk a lot about it's something like deep memory, whatever, but they hypnotize people and then get them to recall things. And the way you hypnotize somebody is by talking to them in that cadence or in a different cadence, in a certain type of cadence. And what it's doing is it's zombifying the news watcher. Like I'll go watch like family members or friends or whatever. I'll like walk into a room if I'm at a house with a bunch of people and I'll watch the people watching the news and you can just see them zombified. Like it's worse than when you like some people watch movies with their mouth open or like staring at the TV. The news is something completely different. It's like it's pure zombification. Like they're hooking you into something and you're taken to a different world. And when you get into that world and that mindset, I know enough about this from studying psychology in college and then more so just from observations in life. When you're in a certain trance or a certain state, you can get subliminal messaging that will get you to do things as the most evil stuff you could probably even imagine, just because if your brain is not like trained to sense those things, you don't even know what's happening to you.
Yeah. And then once you see it, you can't unsee it.
That's true.
All right, Cam, let me grab a couple rants. I know that the Q After Dark is starting in a minute, so we'll try to get out here in a few minutes. Texas Jules sent $20 over. Where's your little boomerang, BB? Put it behind me. Thank you, Jules. I don't know if I'll see you in Florida, but hopefully. EC was here, $5. Gondolin was an inside job. And that is a deep cut Tolkien lore. You're right, Gondolin was an inside job. And it was a dark elf who did it. Miss Real Freedom Fighter, test. Your test worked. Nevada Runner just sent $10 with some thumbs up. Thank you. Deborah Stars, have you seen the Dick Van Dyke tribute from October 2024? It's profound. BB, you'll love it. I have not.
I haven't either.
But I will have to. I'll have to look that up. And what do you got going on this week, Cam? Well, you going to Florida?
Yeah, I'm going to Florida tomorrow, or I think it's today now. Yep. We got 2 minutes over. Oh my God, I almost said the women's show. Wow, that would have been the gayest moment all day.
That's why I think of it as.
Why Chromes? Oh, we got another one that just came in.
Patrick GBBP 417, $25. Great show, gents. Got your note from Kickstarter, brother BB. Those were big boxes, one book at a time. Yep, £2 each, 400 books. Mrs. Bright was really mad because she's been the one packing them all, basically. I signed them though. You know, like I don't dirty myself with low labor. I did get all of them in the house though. So,
I didn't think she was gonna do it, but I'm not gonna lie. I thought that job was for the help.
Yeah,
I'm not calling her the help.
Each box of books was 65 pounds. So I just lug all those in with my herniated disc and everything.
Oh, so, yeah. I forgot your back was still messed up.
Oh, everything's messed up.
But real quick, Y Chrome's tomorrow or today at 1:00 p.m. Alpha, JB, CanCon. And then I don't think I'm going to do my show this weekend on Saturday, Flow at 7:30. But if I do it, guys, it's going to be pre-recorded because we're going to be at GART. But to be honest, all I really care about is GART. I don't give a shit about hanging out with those guys tomorrow. I just do it because it's my job. But GART, man. GART.
I will see you at GART. One more boost was over here from Misogynistic Chick. Cam, don't hate to say it. Yes, there are a lot of misogynists for good reason. Women should not hold any public or private, for that matter, office position. Definitely not the presidency. Can you imagine?
Oh, the most base female take I've ever heard.
Know thyself.
That was great.
Man. I'm going to end us.
Yeah, go ahead. Real quick. Yesterday on my show, Keith O'Higgins called in. And I on my show, when I do call-ins, like, unless I have to get off, I let people just go, man. He started going. He was dropping great nuggets. But then he got into that, and he was just like, he was explaining like deep cuts as to why women shouldn't be in places of power. And I was just like, this is the first controversial take I've ever had on my show. What do I do? And he kept going, and I was just like, fuck it, everyone knows Keith. But he made great points, man. And then the misogynistic woman just came in like, just with the coup de grace.
I fully endorse that position. And it's like the IQ distribution curve. You're like, women shouldn't be in positions of power, low IQ. Then you're like, medium IQ. They should be in tons of positions of power. And then super high IQ. They should not be in any.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. I'm going to read a quote on the way out of here because we're going to wrap full circle with some Russian literature. And this is also a tribute to Brad Zerbo, who brought this quote up in a conversation a couple of weeks ago. And I was like, I didn't know you had it in you, Brad. But he brought up some Solzhenitsyn from some Gulag Archipelago. It's a great quote. Then I'm going to outro with the intro, and you guys should head on over to Q After Dark. Cam, thanks for joining me. I'll hit you with the outro as well.
Thank you, man.
The quote here.
Thank you for having me. I'm not going to say anything after you read the quote because we're going to get out of here. But thank you for having me. The narrative, Bright Army, because I know it's the Bright Army. Bright Army, thanks for having me. You guys treated me well. The only people that made fun of me are known terrorists that show up to my show too.
That's true.
So I know the Bright Army was good to me. But I appreciate you guys. I'll see y'all tomorrow. See everybody at GART. And BB, thank you so much, man. And before I leave, the one thing that I have to say that is mushy, whatever. But dude, the moment that I found Badlands, like I love Jordan's stuff, Brad's stuff, John's stuff, Zach, and then I started to love everybody else's. But man, you were the first person that I was drawn to because one, you had a show that went on for hours, and like Jackie used to be like,
"Hey,
where
you shouldn't
are
have
you?
put a show after me, Brad. You knew it was gonna fucking
Dude,
happen."
It was so dumb. Jackie used to be like, she called me like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm in my truck. It'd be like 40 degrees outside with the truck with the heat on, just listening to Defected like for hours." And she'd be like, "You coming in?" And I'm like, I think this show's gonna go past like 1 o'clock. She's like, "All right, I'm going to sleep."
Yeah.
So I'd come in, I'd literally pause it, come in, say goodnight to her. She'd go to sleep. I'd come back, speed it up a little bit to catch back up, and then watch the rest of the show.
Except
So
before all
it's
that,
a
you'd
dream.
say, "Don't you dare talk back to me."
No.
then
I learned
you'd say
that. I learned that from you guys. I was a big pussy at first,
exactly.
but as I watched Defected,
Right.
and then when the narrative came around, that's when I was like, "Bitch, be in your place." I'm just kidding. You see me look over there. Real
I'm gonna
quick?
take you off the screen so she can do whatever she needs to do.
Oh no!
And I'm gonna outro with this. Thanks for joining me, Cam.
Thanks,
we'll
man.
do it again, and I
All
will
right,
see
sounds
you
good.
in a few days in Florida.
I'll see you at GART.
All right, guys. Good episode there. Good stuff on boomerangs. I'm gonna read this quote that I just think is a good quote, and Ash is in chat. She identifies as a bright adjacent militia, a tentative alliance that's never completely stable, just like women. Very womanly of you. And Solzhenitsyn, great quote that Brad brought up recently. The most terrifying force of death comes from the hands of men who wanted to be left alone. They try so very hard to mind their own business and provide for themselves and those they love. They resist every impulse to fight back, knowing the forced and permanent change of life that will come from it. They know that the moment they fight back, their lives as they have lived them are over. The moment the men who wanted to be left alone are forced to fight back, it is a form of suicide. They are literally killing off who they used to be, which is why, when forced to take up violence, these men who wanted to be left alone fight with unholy vengeance against those who murdered their former lives. They fight with raw hate and a drive that cannot be fathomed by those who are merely play-acting at politics and terror. True terror will arrive at these people's door, and they will cry, scream, and beg for mercy, but it will fall upon the deaf ears of the men who just wanted to be left alone. That is not a threat. That's just a based Russian dude saying some based stuff. So I hope that hits you in whatever way it should. Otherwise, outroing with the intro. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Save Pulse. Thank you to you guys for watching the show. Please hit the thumbs up button on the way out. Watch Q After Dark with Brad, Alpha, and Josh. There will be no episode of The Narrative next weekend. I'm going to be wrangling Baby Bright and Mrs. Bright in Florida. So we're going to take a weekend off. I will be on the Super Power Hour with Chris and John live from Cocoa Beach Saturday night. BadlandsMedia.tv/events. Grab your tickets, virtual. The chat's bumping off already. And anyway, outro with the intro. Remember, the war is a story. The story is a war. Act accordingly.
We were sleeping. I've been sleeping. I've been turning away from a truth I wanted not to face. There is a wound that won't heal at the center of the galaxy. There is a darkness reaching like rust into everything around us. We let it grow, and now it's here.
How many men have you killed, Malone?
I don't know.
50? 100? Countless.
Countless has a nice ring to it.
And how many lives have you saved?
500,000. Population of King's Landing. Tell me if your precious Randy commanded you to kill your own father and stand by while thousands of men, women, children burned alive, would you have done it? Would you have kept your oath then?
Our time has come. We prepared. We grew stronger. While you rested in your cradle of power, you were trusted to lead the Republic. But you were deceived. You assumed no force could challenge you. And now, finally, we have returned.
The visions are clear now. I see possible futures all at once. Our enemies are all around us. And in so many futures they prevail. But I do see a way. There is a narrow way through.
It's not a prophecy. It's a story that you keep telling, but it's not their story, it's yours. They deserve to be led by one of their own. What your people did to this world is heartbreaking.
We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope!
We have survived by hiding from them, by running from them. But they are the gatekeepers. They are guarding all the doors, they are holding all the keys, which means that sooner or later, someone is going to have to fight them.
I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such time, but that is not for them to decide. All we will have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us.
Forgive me. I did not see. I have failed you all. You will bring me. Captain Armor. I do not know what strength is in my net, but I swear to you I will not let the White City fall. Our people fail. Our people. our people.
I wish you good fortune in the wars to come. And now it begins.
No. Now it ends.